All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ashland Planning Board meeting of Thursday, March 12th, 2026. Please note that the meeting is being broadcast and recorded. First on our agenda, well, first I'll call the meeting to order at 7:19, just a couple minutes late. We are waiting, we have 4 members here. We are waiting for one member who will be, hopefully be joining us remotely just soon, hopefully. First item on our agenda is the chair and clerk's report. I believe besides another communication that I had with Susan Thornton, regarding the zero cross street. Thank you. I have no memory this evening. I think that was the only correspondence that I had. I had actually reached out to her because she had mentioned the Hopkinton Planning Board going to be meeting this past Monday, and that they were on the agenda. So, but when I checked the agenda, that issue of Cross Street was not on the Planning Board agenda. So I reached out to her and asked about it, and she said that I think the Hopkinton town attorney had apparently asked the Planning Board to pull it from their agenda. So that was all that was known about that, and so obviously I did not go to the meeting, but just noting the correspondence. Do you have a question, Scott?
Did they say why they pulled it?
Not in that email, no. But reiterated that that the planning board did send a memo. Jesmond's actually sent that in a real paper format, in support of the select board's letter. So that did go out. Okay, so next on the agenda is public comment. The room is quite quiet this evening, but there may be people online who want to make a public comment. If you do, please raise your hand so that Jasmine can see you. All right. So none. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to our next agenda item, which is public hearings. The first public hearing on our agenda is from Eversource. It's a scenic roads hazardous tree removal, which we started talking about 2 weeks ago. I see Matt Mitchell online. So I think when we last talked about this topic, we were going to, first of all, have planning board members on their own. We're going to look at the marked trees if possible. And Matt was going to find out about potential replanting of some trees. Is there anything I missed in that we were going to look at? Okay. I did go out, with Melissa and Becca, who's also online, did go out with Matt on, was it Tuesday? The really, really nice sunny day. We went out and looked at trees. It was quite nice, actually. And didn't obviously walk the whole way or look at every single tree, but looked at all kinds of example trees up close to kind of understand those conditions. And I highly recommend, if anyone ever wants to know anything about trees or how a forest grows, please ask Becca to take you for a walk in the woods, and you will learn lots of stuff. So that said, I'll turn it over to Matt if you want to give us any updates of the information you have, and then we'll open up the board to any questions or concerns.
Yes, I do have another PowerPoint. I think shorter than last time, but with some context and tidbits. If I can share my screen. Let's see. I think it is this one.
Oh, I also, while he's getting that ready, I also want to comment that Scott had wanted to set up a Zoom with Matt to talk about a few issues, questions that he had, and I was there as well for that, for those questions. Did you want to say anything about that, Scott? That was just this afternoon, kind of last minute.
It was a short little call this afternoon. Just wanted to understand more about what was, you know, how, like the number of houses that were affected in that area, and he gave me some clarification on that. And then just some other pieces that could be affected, like we talked about how the water treatment plant over there could also lose power at the same time when those houses in that area loses power. I drove the street and looked at them, so I didn't have as many questions about the physical trees, but more about the area, how many people in Ashland were affected, how do we really, you know, understand, like, if we pass this, how does it improve the lives of those, well, hopefully, you know, the power outage portion of the lives for those people that live over in that section. So just kind of understanding more of that part.
Yep, great. All right, so with that, I will turn it over to Matt.
Do you all see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so hello again, everybody. Matthew. So on the left, I have some new introductory photos compared to last time. So these are photos I took last summer, the most recent summer, during an outage investigation. Actually, for this circuit, there was a tree-caused outage. This is right near the line with Hopkinton. I think it's technically on the Hopkinton side, but you can see where from where this was taken, you can see where the road names changed. It's very close to the Ashland portion. And you can see that this tree has failed onto the wires or it did at least. On the right, you can see where we pushed it off to the side of the road, but at the top of the photo, you can see where the primary high voltage wires are. And then on the left, this tree ended up being almost completely hollow like a straw. It was really something. And what was very interesting for me as an arborist was that this tree did not have any of the swelling that we normally look for with trees that have a lot of rot in the stem. So, you know, I've gone up and down Howe Street looking for what I think are good hazard trees, but there's a lot out there. There's just a lot out there with where we are in the forest life cycle. So this is the map of the circuit. I have highlighted in yellow Howe and Cross, which are the scenic roads where there are proposed removals today. And I wanted to show this because to sort of explain like how electricity flows through circuits. The substation is somewhere up north. And generally the electrical flow for the circuit goes north to south. So what that means is anywhere where there is a tree-caused outage, or any outage for that matter, everywhere downstream, or in this case south of that location, loses power. Who also loses power is anybody upstream, or in this case north, from where the outage event occurred until we hit isolating equipment that can basically shut the power off and keep the rest of the circuit energized. So anything upstream of that switching equipment does not have an outage. Everything downstream does have an outage. And the nearest switching equipment I found on the Eversource GIS, I marked in red. So everything to the left, so that's that section of Cordoville. And I think that road is Thomas Street, as well as everything down Howe and even further down into Hopkinton, where Howe turns into Wilson Street, would lose power. So if there's a tree-related incident on Howe Street close to, if I think more than half of the circuit loses power, it is over half of the circuit that loses power, because that northern section that's very straight along the town line, that's all right of way. There are no residents getting power on that section. So anything that happens on Howe Street, it can be very significant. Even though Howe Street itself, especially the southern portion, is not particularly densely populated. So some facts and figures. Since May of 2024, 81% of outages on the circuit have been tree related. That's 4 out of 5. There have been 52 total outages. Of those, 42 have been tree related. So a very significant portion of the outages that Ashland residents have experienced have been tree related. And of those, 22, which is over half, occurred on Howe Street itself. So, House Street isn't necessarily the most densely populated street in Ashland, but there are outages occurring on House Street that are affecting a significant number of people. On the right, I have circled in purple all of the property parcels in Ashland that would be impacted by an outage. I didn't count every single one, but I think it's well over 100. And this is just for the Ashland portion. This is not counting the residents in Hopkinton, for example. And circled in yellow, which was alluded to earlier, is the Ashland's water treatment facility. So, we're not just talking about people losing power. We're not just talking about trees and live wires in the road. Like this would impact potentially critical infrastructure for the town. This slide's basically unchanged since the last time. I was just summarizing my tree list: 46 trees, varying size classes. About 13 of them are dead or virtually dead due to invasive pests. And I broke it down into hazard ratings, again unchanged. The hazard rating of 3 is what I would consider the most potentially hazardous, 2 in the middle, and then 1 is on the lower end of the spectrum. Now, I think where we left things off last time, I think the big elephant in the room was the question of replanting. So I wanted to get into that a bit today. I would prefer a more open-ended commitment, just following a future tree warden DPW recommendation. And the reasons for that are the following. It basically comes down to, it's difficult to say how many appropriate sites there are to plant trees. So I don't want to commit to a really big number before we know like what can actually fit. If we're restricted to town-owned properties, the biggest potential, of course, a lot of people think of is the road layout, but planting within the road layout makes it actually somewhat difficult to guarantee that these trees survive into maturity, which is whenever I plant trees, that's the goal. I do want them to be there after I am gone, preferably. If there's a pre-existing canopy, it starves the nursery transplants of light and water, which they need quite badly after going through the transplant process. And if it's a forested street, such as Howe and most of Cross, replantings on those streets specifically are unnecessary to preserve the forested aesthetic. As we saw on the site walk, for those who were there, there is a very vibrant layer of young, naturally regenerating trees that the forest is producing. And the existing canopy trees next to the proposed removals would also fill in the space over the next few years. The road layout tends to be somewhat hostile to trees, even outside of whether or not there's an overarching canopy from the forest. They got to deal with road salt. They have to deal with compacted soil, poor soil, urban soil, not what they're used to growing up in the wild. They can get whacked by snowplows. When they're plowing the roads, their priority is to clear the roads, not necessarily to watch for small trees that are easy to miss at night. So if we're going to be planting within the road layout, what that means that it severely limits the choice of species that we can choose from. Species have to be selected primarily for their hardiness. Stuff like, are they native or not? Do they have good fall foliage? Do they have pleasant looking or pleasant smelling flowers? Those all become a very secondary objective. These trees have to be selected for whether or not they're just going to survive in this hostile environment. And if we're planting within the road layout where there are utility lines overhead, that further limits the choices to species that do not require pruning at mature height. So basically all that is to say, doing a planting plan only in the road layout can be very difficult. Most of my proposed removals have been selected due to they are already potentially hazardous or they're already in poor health. We're not removing healthy trees to make way for new construction or to mitigate any tree mortality that would come from burying the wires. Removing these trees, in my opinion, removes potential liability for the town as they are town-owned trees. And removing these trees allows the adjacent ones to get more sunlight and to grow in a more healthy fashion with less stress from having to compete with more neighbors for light and water and resources. Regularly thinning via tree removal is a very common practice in forest management. So for those above reasons, I think that a one-to-one replanting would not be the best decision to go forward with. I think that planting projects should center around what species and number of trees best suits the selected location and the project. And if we are trying to plant as much trees as humanly possible, that can backfire as they start to compete with each other for light and resources and can actually increase risk of mortality long term. All of that being said, I did come up with some kind of system for throwing a number out there. There are 10 trees of hazard rating 2 or lower of a significant size, so 1.5 feet or more in diameter. I think that's a pretty good place to start the conversation for of replanting at a minimum 10 trees. I'm very open to more. I think that would just depend on the needs of the planting site and the site availability. And that final number is something I'm very happy being decided by the town and the tree warden and not by Eversource. That is the end of my presentation.
Can you just go back to that slide? And so when you say, so what category is that? Sorry, I just didn't understand the lower part.
The slide you mean?
Yeah.
So the hazard rating of 2 is the middle rating. I didn't want to include 3 because that's a lot of dead trees or trees that are in like the worst possible condition. These are not healthy trees. So this is the middle category of there is a moderate amount of potential risk with these trees failing. They have some kind of rot, they have some kind of defect. It's not extreme, but
And they're 18 inches or over.
and they're 18
So
and
that
they're 18
relates
inches
to
or over.
replanting in what way? You're saying
Go because these are the trees that we're taking out. So if we're taking out these trees that are of a significant size, I think that and there's 10 of them, that's a good place to start.
so you're saying only replacing those 10.
At a minimum of the 10. I'm very happy for that number being higher. It just depends on what the town's needs are for new trees.
All right, I just want to make sure I understand. So we're saying the level 3s, those are all the ones that need to come down anyway because they're either dead or they're really close to dying, super, they need to come down anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying the remaining ones, 10 is just kind of the arbitrary number you started with because it's based on the number that are in group 2, that they're over 18 inches. And then you're going to partner with Becca and the town to, when they come up with the need, that's when Eversource is going to say, okay, you have a need. We're going to help fill that need by giving you these trees.
Correct.
Okay. And Becca, is she on with us?
Yes, she's there.
Yes, I'm here.
This was something that came up because I asked about the forestry plan. And she did mention earlier, and you can confirm if I'm saying this correctly, that the funding for it was approved in the fall, and you're just kind of waiting for that to get the final approval to move forward with coming up with that forestry plan, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's not like we're waiting on funding or something to get this plan, and once we have the plan, that'll really help drive the direction of where these new, at minimum 10 trees can go, if needed.
Yes.
Right, so that Becca would be determining, as tree warden, Becca would be determining where those go and what species they are, so it's all appropriate for the area. My question is also that is this just the trees? I assume it cannot include maintenance because, yeah, that would have to be done by the town. But is the planting, is it just the donation of the tree? Because I want to be clear, and then the maintenance, it's a gift, and then the maintenance and the planting is done by the town? Is that what we're?
Yeah, generally what we do with town replantings like this is we deliver the trees, our contractor plants the trees.
Okay.
But the maintenance for the watering would be something that the town does.
All right, so the contractor would provide the tree as the type of tree as requested by Becca, and then they would plant it, and then it would basically get turned over to us for its care.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so Becca, any comments from you on this appropriateness of number and?
Yeah,
know.
so I'll add to it. I know that Matthew had mentioned the size of the tree. I didn't quite catch it because my audio is not so well. I'm having some internet issues here. I think, Matthew, did you say 4-inch caliper trees? Or
Oh,
3-inch?
I didn't say a specific size
Okay.
for the replantings, but generally we plant, most of the time, the trees that we're planting are 1.5 to 2.5 inch caliper. That's sort
So
of the
that's
that's sort of the happy medium between growing quickly, recovering from the transplant, but still being a decent size.
So for the planning board and anybody watching, a 2.5 caliper tree, very dependent on the species, but it's going to be about 5 feet tall or so. That's the height of the tree that you're probably looking at. If you've gone to the Ashland Arboretum before all the snow hit, all the trees we planted there are 2.5-inch caliper. So you'd be looking at a tree of that size. It's a good size, but you don't want to go very large with your tree plantings because it's actually much more stressful for a tree. And I explained this to on the site walk on Tuesday.
Yes.
And I'll explain it here as well. The best analogy I have is when you transplant a small tree versus a big tree. It's like taking a younger, maybe elementary school child and transferring schools. They adapt very easily compared to taking a high schooler who's been in one school all their life to another school. It's a bit harder to adapt. Trees are kind of the same way. You take a small young tree, they adapt very easily to the new site that they're put in. But the older the tree is, the bigger the tree is, it's much more likely that the transplant stress will be too much for them and they just would not actually survive. So having a smaller number of trees to spread out, get the right size, 2.5-inch caliper is a good size tree so that they can grow fast and fill in the space because they will grow fast is ideal.
All right, so we're starting with 10 2.5 inch, and I think Matt gave a different diameter, or caliper, but we'll say 2.5. 10 2.5 caliper trees that they will be planted, and then the maintenance of those trees would be taken over by the town. Is that acceptable to?
You said that's a starting point, so I want to be mindful because I think the 10 is out of that 21, out of that rating 2, I think it's 21 trees, right? So it would be good to keep it open in such a way that if we can do better than 10, we should have that option available.
Yes, I think I see where the confusion is coming from with the diameter. So I came up with the 10 number by counting the number of trees that had that hazard rating of 2, and I counted each tree with a rating of 2 that its own diameter was 18 inches or large or more. So basically counting all the big trees, basically significant trees rather.
So why did the other 2 don't matter? Like, why only the second category? Like, why are you using the second category, not the other 2?
I didn't
where I
want
was
to use.
confused.
So I didn't want to use the 3, because that is the tree. These are the trees that are at the highest risk. So there's not really much to replace. These are the trees that are dead. These are the trees that have the really big gaping holes in them. These are the trees that are infected by really nasty invasive species. So there's not really much to replace.
In other words, you're saying category 2 is more like your Eversource is doing something for the town.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we're kind of overthinking this from my perspective. So again, I think we have 10 2.5 inch caliper trees, species to be selected by Becca and location of planting to be selected by Becca, but to be planted by Eversource, and then it would be taken over to the town. So if anyone has something they would like to change, I want a number.
Yeah, would you be open to adding 9 more to it? Those are the rest, those are the ones that are still in category 2, but they're over a foot instead of 18 inches. I counted the same 10 you did for the 18 plus, but I think a foot is still kind of good size. I noticed most of the ones are all really small, except I think there's one that's 18 to 24 that could be also added, but.
Yeah, my only hesitation with that number of trees is just finding the places for them.
Yeah, again, I only want to follow the direction of the forestry plan and Becca's recommendation, you know.
I think if there's no place for them, then they don't get planted. If Becca, we don't just we won't just put a tree in a place that it would be likely to fail. So if we don't have locations for them, then they don't get planted, and we don't need those trees then, right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm kind of making the assumption that after the forestry plan, that there is somewhere in the town that could use some trees.
we can make that assumption,
Yeah.
and if it
I mean,
doesn't happen, it
maybe I'm
doesn't
wrong,
happen,
but-
right? So Matt, is 19 possible, or are you going to make a counteroffer?
Oh, I feel like we're haggling.
What is
If Becca finds locations for 19 trees, I'm happy to plant 19 trees. It's just that large of a number is something I'm nervous about committing to and being stuck on it.
What do you mean being stuck on it, that they have to be planted?
Yes.
I mean,
No, I think that's up to Becca, and if she doesn't have locations for the trees where they can thrive, then we're not going to waste money.
so is there a particular reason we can't say 19 trees planted over the course of 24 months in the town of Ashland at Becca's discretion, with input from various committees, select board? I know the comprehensive plan certainly thought about certain areas of town needing more coverage. So there's plenty of data sources for Becca to peek at. But to me, why not say 19 trees over 24 months or something like that?
Does
Because-
that sound good, Matt? 19?
If you want to go with 19, as long as we have the asterisk of there aren't 19 spots. I don't think we need to necessarily do over the 24 months period. I think that a realistic timeline for this would be in the spring planting season of next year. And I think you can probably get most of them done within the same planting
So
season.
you're saying spring of 2027. So I would say
Yes.
then we would want the spring of 2028 to finish the 19 that were not planted on.
Let's just say 24 months to make it easy, then
Well,
there's lots.
24 months from when?
From
Because
now.
I don't want to miss the spring cycle of 2028. If what Matt is saying is the first time we can plant is in April, I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss the following April. So why don't we say through the end of 2028?
Through the end of 2028? Or
Right, he's saying he can't do anything until next spring, not this year.
Okay.
Next
I mean,
year.
the planting seasons are fall and the spring. Fall being like early October-ish. Where is it going with this?
So it's through the end
So
of-
we don't get them all in
So-
on this. So we don't get all of them in the spring. We can then do them in the fall, and then
And in the next spring is 24
I just
months.
this spring it's way too soon. Next and with the fall planting season that's coming up, I think it would still be a little bit rushed if we're planting that many trees.
to the board, just going back to the selection of the planting locations and the species being planted is based on the plan that's being written this year. That inventory is probably going to be taking place over the course of the summer. The plan will finish by the end of this year, but it's probably not going to be finished before the growing season is done. So we wouldn't be able to give that list of locations and tree plantings to Eversource until the end of the year, or very beginning of next. And then just real quick on the why might we not be able to do 19 trees all at once? depending on the locations found. We think about planting trees and we're like, we want as many in the small place as possible. It looks pretty when they're small until suddenly they have a 30-foot radius spread crown and they're all growing into each other, and it causes the trees to decline much earlier than they would have if they had been spread out. So normally we stagger the plantings so that you have a larger tree providing some shade for a smaller tree, and so that when the older tree does eventually decline, that younger tree is already there to replace it, and they're not growing into each other as well. So that's why we might not have sites for 19 trees all in 1 year.
So I'm just looking for numbers that we can put on this. So maximums are 19 trees and a maximum of 24 months. Do you think that would be helpful and suit your needs, Becca? Whether or not they
Yes.
all, if we don't have places for the 19 trees and we can't get them all in, then we can't. But we have an opportunity to do so. But are those timeframes and the amount of trees sound good to you, Becca, or would you adjust something?
I think that's fine.
Okay.
As long as Eversource is agreeable to it, I think that's fine.
So Tricia, I'm just perplexed because 24 months from now is only going to cover one spring planting and one fall planting. If you want to cover another spring, it needs to be more than 24 months from now.
I'm just going.
Am I misstating?
I am going by what Becca says in the 19, in a 24-month span.
I think Becca's saying she's okay with what we say.
Becca,
So-
do you think you need more than 24 months?
I think 24 months is enough time. The first 12 months, or not even 12 months. This year we will get that plan done. And before next spring, we will have provided Eversource that information. So next spring of next year, they will be able to do the plantings. If for some reason they don't have all of them in, then fall of next year, they will finish those plantings. And I will be putting the pressure on Eversource to make sure that they meet that timeline.
So
So
I appreciate all of that. I mean, I've been in this town for a while, and what I see is that when we say something will be done by the end of the year, no offense, Becca, it doesn't get done by the end of the year. We oftentimes need more time to get things approved, editing, et cetera. I'm a little perplexed why we're not giving ourselves
Well, give me
more
a date.
flexibility.
How many months? How many
Like
months?
I said,
3?
I would just open it until the end of 2028. That gives you the full cycle of next spring and fall.
Okay.
And if it
End of
doesn't get done,
2028, done. That's
you
what the
have the
date is.
spring of 2028. I don't think it's the end of the
Is
world.
there any other changes that we need to make on this? End of 2028, 19 trees, 2.5-inch caliber. Okay. Sounds like, so this will be a what for us? You will have, this is a pretty typical acceptance decision, but it is something we'll have to sign. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can have this ready I can have it sent out,
Yes.
but you can approve it tonight.
All right, that sounds good.
So 26th, though, we're gonna be remote, right? So do we have to like come in and sign by some specific time?
Just as soon as you can after that, I can also, we can drop it off in mailboxes if need be, if people have a hard
I
time.
want to be
getting
easy for
here,
you.
so-
Like, I can come, I just need to know, I need clear direction
Okay.
before I mess things up.
All right, well, she will put that out for signing. All right, so is someone want to make a motion?
Yeah? No, I'm doing it. All right, I motion that we approve the Eversource Scenic Roads Hazard Tree Removals based on allowing them to remove the ones that they selected, and they're going to plant 19 new trees with feedback from Becca and the forestry plan by the end of 2028.
All right, is there a second?
Second that.
Roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye, and
Paul's on.
oh, Paul is
Paul
on.
just came on, yes.
Yes, I'm
Paul,
here,
would-
guys.
Would you like to vote?
Sure. So I'm gonna, Paul Montesino, aye.
All right, so that passes. The trees will be taken care of. Thank you for all the detail and research in this and for the tour as well.
Thank you all for having me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew.
And hello, Paul.
Hello.
How's the airport?
I'm still here. I'm in the lounge. They're gonna kick me out in 35, 40 minutes, so I'll just go outside.
Okay.
No big deal.
You could be in your car too, just listening.
Yeah, I'm just parked off site, so it's too much of a hassle. So
Okay.
better for me to stay here.
Okay, then we will move right along then. We'll just take care of Tilton while it's here. 55 Tilton Avenue is continuing. They've asked for a continuance until
March 26th, please.
March 26th. So unless there's comments from the board, I will make a motion that 55 Tilton is continued until March 26th. Is there a second?
Second that.
And a roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Skip Otira.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. So that is continued. Next on our agenda, which is the one we want to make sure you're here for, Paul, if possible, is 30
Yep.
Memorial Drive. That is the YMCA.
Yep.
So, so Peter, we are ready for, oh, okay, so,
Carrie DeLeo, I believe, is presenting.
all right.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm going to present so I can drive the presentation from here. But
Okay, that sounds
are
good.
you ready for us, Tricia? Yeah.
I think so. Is there any other introduction we needed, Jasmine? Obviously, we recognize you, but we haven't seen you for a while, so,
Correct. Well, that's why we're here.
excellent.
So as a reminder, Carrie DeLeo, School Art Consulting Group, we're the owner's project manager for the project, Ashland firm, and really excited to be back. Why haven't we been here? That's a great question. So we got to kind of a crossroads, I think, with both conservation and planning, and realized that we weren't making a lot of progress until we got through the peer review process, right? So we kept coming back and realizing that a lot of the conversation was about what was happening with the peer review. So we did opt to stay out of the planning board and CONSCOM until we were ready. Just as I'll go through this, but we have since been able to close the comments with GCG and Vanessa Associates, and then earlier this week, Becca and the conservation closed their hearing on our project as well. So we thought this was a great time to come back, give you a quick update on kind of where we've been since. A lot of the work that's been going on has not been super glamorous. It's been a lot of back and forth of conversations around stormwater. But what we also recognize is that there were some items that were talked about with this group. We had teed up to present those items at the December 11th meeting that we did end up continuing because we hadn't received updated comments. And they were all incorporated into the revised sets that were submitted with the peer review comments, but they have not been presented in public forum. And so we thought we could just give you a high level of what those are. Again, they're all in the plans that you have. So just a reminder, if I can get my slides to go. Okay, so just a reminder of the team. We actually have folks from most of these entities online. We don't have traffic on with us because I don't think there's anything there that could come up. But in the event that anything comes up, we're hoping we can answer any final questions or make any clarifications this evening. As a reminder, so as of that December 11th meeting, when we did decide to continue, I had sent an email to Jasmine just kind of confirming to make sure we all knew what we still had as open, confirming what was still open with both planning and conservation. I think I actually emailed Becca and Jasmine together. At that time, there was still some clarification desired to understand our approach to how we were clearing and why we were clearing the site. There was some question about what the landscape buffer looked like in that existing condition. Again, a little clarity on what's happening in that corner. The planning board had asked the YMCA if they would be amenable to having a public bus stop on their site if and when the town rolls out a busing system. And then we have to still obviously get through the nitty gritty of the decision. And then there are three kind of looming items that, like I mentioned, we have now since closed. The GCG and their peer review for stormwater and civil, Vanessa for their review of traffic, the conservation comments and their hearing is now closed. And then incorporated in all of those were the comments we received from, the town technical review, the fire department, police, all the different entities in town that we received along the way. So this evening, I wanted to give you an update of those status of the items from that 1211 email. And then the items again, they're in that final set, but I don't think we've ever really talked about them publicly that I wanted to touch on just to kind of bring you along to make sure you were all feeling like you heard the answers to the questions you've had. One was about Dunkin' Donuts access and how one would get to and from the parking lot there, and then all the way not only to but through and past our site to Trolley Brook. How do you get from the front yard to the backyard, again on foot, in cars, etc. And then there was another question about what the retaining walls would look like. So we just brought some imagery just so you could see that. Any questions before I jump in on any of that?
Doesn't look like it. Not
Okay.
yet.
So again, just for perspective, you all know this site, but in case there's public listening, this is the site of Memorial Drive across the street from the backyard of the middle school. It's right adjacent to the 135 Dunkin' Donuts, which we've talked about, and right near the trailhead here of Trolley Brook, as well as the dog park. An overview of the full site. So in our approach from a development standpoint to building on this site. So obviously it's a forested site right now. We are attempting to maintain the forested area to the extent possible along the perimeter of our site to keep that old growth forest intact and give ourselves a buffer, from adjacent properties. We're hoping to curate what we're calling the nature's edge, which will be, like a backyard for the community, right? So you see trails, areas for recreating, fields. We're also looking into natural areas, may they be paths or, natural classrooms, etc. But then in that space where we are needing to clear to do our development, we're hoping to actually enhance the area back there by curating this nice space where some specimen trees can actually thrive, native trees, and give them a space where they can be appreciated. I have some images that will show you the existing condition and then also some of the images we're using as inspiration.
We might have 19 trees.
Just as clarity in terms of requirements, so the requirements that are needed, along our frontage is, 1 tree per 30 feet. So we would be required to put in 29 new trees. This buffer here shows 46. And then there's also an additional trees on the whole site for a total of 210 replacement trees. Again, I think many of you joined us months and months and months ago to walk the property. So this is, full forested area. There's a number of trees that, as you can see, have not survived. It's fairly dense and basically unusable at the moment. It's just because of the amount of felled trees, etc. It's very difficult to even traverse through the forest, which many of us have done a number of times. The idea of what we are envisioning is that nature's edge is really, taking the space behind the building and creating a space where it's very park-like. A lot of folks have mentioned Cushing Park in Framingham as an example, but these are some representative images that we've been looking at as to how we integrate, native species, but in a way that they can thrive and really become specimen trees versus, dense forest that again can't really be appreciated by the public. Again, there was a question we had requested the landscape buffer be considered. There's a standard 50-foot landscape buffer that we understand is desire to create a physical and visual buffer between neighbors. We are requesting a 30-foot setback, again, because of kind of this wonky corner of our property that's making it very difficult to build. If you see here, these black arrows, this is as close as we could get to identifying where exactly on site that is and what it looks like. So as you can see, very dense visually. You can't see the dog kennel that's on that adjacent property. The other thing that is also really important from a barrier perspective is there's a pretty significant grade change. You'll see here at our building, the grade is 243 feet, and at the neighbor's property, just a couple, maybe a couple hundred feet in, you're down 250 to 215 feet. And then you immediately enter into the wetland. So we feel that that buffer is really naturally occurring, and us being a little bit closer to that setback is not going to be detrimental in any way to the adjacent property. Next one was an easy one. Could we have a bus stop? Yes. We already have a designated spot right at the front door for pickup and drop off. So the Y, not only do parents pick up and drop off, but there's a number of seniors that come via shuttles and things like that. There could be opportunities where there are school buses, et cetera. So that's already been incorporated into our plan. And should the town, roll out their master plan for bus transportation, the Y would be happy to allow, a public bus to stop there as well. The next section is again about that community connection. So just as a reminder, these were comments that were largely from the planning board and conversations we had that have all been incorporated into the final plan set, but have never been shown final plans to you. So just wanted to go through that. Lots of conversation around accessible routes and what happens out on the street, and then also within the site. As you see this here, everything in blue is accessible per code. That is not to say that the red or pink is not usable, right? And I say that specifically here, this area here is just slightly out of compliance. So, think about some of the folks that are pushing strollers or however they're using that space. There may still be an option, where they would prefer to just go up a little bit of a steeper hill. But either way, we've continued the walk all the way along Memorial Drive with a fully accessible walk into the site. And then this is your path if you were going to that Nature's Edge area, but not going to the YMCA.
So just to reiterate, if, say, you're in a wheelchair, you can follow the blue path and it be a perfectly accessible route, but it's longer. So you might choose the pink path if you're up for it.
Yeah, and accessible route is like 5%. I forget, and Andy, kick me if I'm like way off. I think this is like 6 or 7. So it's not like it's a 20% grade. It's just a little bit out of compliance. So absolutely. And when we think about, the Hoyt strollers and folks that might be coming off of Trolley Brook to be running, they may, these are people running marathons, they may not even notice.
Right.
But we do have a compliant route, but also some kind of path of least resistance routes. We also added back, we had originally had this sidewalk over here and then had taken it out when we recognized that Dunkin' Donuts didn't have a walk. And then I think through conversations, it was brought up that, it doesn't really matter because kids are going to come up there. So if we can capture them once they enter our site, then let's do that. And so that's what we've done.
And there's also a full sidewalk along the street now. Is that?
To our property line, there's not a site. This is the corner of Dunkin' Donuts. They do not have a sidewalk.
No, I mean in front of the YMCA, not.
Oh,
in front
yeah.
of, yeah.
Yep. All the way here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
On that map, on the map or the picture on the top, can you, is it possible to indicate just with your mouse, like where that property line is?
I think it's somewhere like right here.
Okay.
It's not a ton. I think if Dunkin' Donuts was interested in putting, or the town putting a sidewalk here, that's not overwhelming. The issues on the other side of this drive aisle between there and the crosswalk, there's a transformer and some infrastructure that makes it a little bit harder.
No, totally get it, but I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
wonderful. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm trying to be quick for you all. And then there was a question about what you would see from the retaining walls. We do have a couple of sizable retaining walls. What's important to note is the site will be at the top of those retaining walls. And then again, there's that dense forest layer between there and where any visual connection would be. So really what you'll see is something like this. I think this is actually from the high school where they have a retaining wall. So it's just, a fence along the top of the wall for safety. And they're basically not visible at all. And these red areas are where we have those conditions.
On when you talked a few slides back about there being like a 30-foot grade drop to that wetlands in that little weird corner section,
Yeah.
is that just going to be hill right there, or is there going to be some sort of retaining wall there as well?
No, it will just remain as is. That's actually all on the neighbor's property. It's existing forested area, but it drops down pretty fast.
Okay, so it's just going to be like grass on the YMCA side, or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like-
Yep.
and then
Yep.
just goes into the woods and then downhill.
Yep.
Got
Yep.
it. Don't kick soccer balls down there. Got it.
Yeah, you don't want to be playing soccer right here. But the fields are down much lower. They're more at the if you remember, so what's a little bit hard to see, this part of the building is I'm trying to make sure I say this right. This part of the building is 3 stories. I could probably pull up a grading plan, but the fields are low, right? This corner is higher. But it all kind of slopes off as you go down that hill.
Yep.
But you'll see here, this like little bubble here, that's our limit of work. So that'll all just remain exactly as is, that forested edge.
Kelly, can you confirm, is that buffer 30 feet or 20 feet?
30.
So the note on the GCG, which I think it's a 0.9, that refers to a 20-foot buffer. Is that not the same?
So I think this is a different, and Matt, I'll let you comment. I think this is a landscape buffer, not a setback issue,
Yeah,
right?
just to hopefully clarify, the 30-foot you see kind of, Carrie, I don't know if you can do the cursor, but
Right here.
So that's the zoning setback. So again, I know we talked about this a while back. So the building itself respects the 30-foot zoning requirement. And then you can see the 50-foot, which would be the traditional buffer. So part of the building is in that. And then we're about 20 feet. You can see how, the tree line does stagger a little bit. So at its tightest point, it probably gets a little bit less than 20 feet. And then at its kind of its widest, we probably get to 20. So I would ignore, for the purposes of this, ignore the 30-foot number. That's just calling out the side setback that we're respecting.
Yeah, and it's a little bit confusing too, Deepa, because the shape of this, you'll see, even though this is on the side of the property, this is a rear setback because of the direction, and then we go back to a 25 side yard setback. It's a little bit, again, we've talked about this corner ad nauseum, but it's just a little bit of a wonky situation.
So the black dashed line on this is your property line?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had to present. Just again, I just wanted to, kind of get you up to speed, make sure you were aware that the stuff that we hadn't talked about had been addressed. And I guess open it to any comment, or the other thing I think we'd like to talk about a little bit is the status of our decision. I know we were given a draft, and that has been, I just have to figure out how to stop sharing here. Stop sharing. There we go. that has been iterated upon by both Jasmine and the planning board, I believe, and then also Matt. So that's all I have to offer you. So I'll let me know.
Yeah, just to jump in a minute about the decision, that's something the planning board's going to need to go through in detail, because I did notice that it was quite changed by, I can't remember who had looked at it, from Fletcher Tilton, and in a different way than what our decisions, the format our decisions usually are in. So the planning board is going to want to review that carefully, and we may be likely reverting to our standard decision rather than those comments that were changed. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But we will be looking at that and to see what we want to do with it. So I think in looking at the comments about the decision, it would really be more comments about conditions. If there were comments on conditions that were going into that and how those would be worded. So, but again, that will probably be then finding its way back to, I'm not sure if the board even had a chance to really go through that decision at this point.
That was the one that you sent yesterday?
That was the latest version. There should have been one sent prior to that as well.
There was a red line version and
Yeah.
a clean copy version.
Okay.
That's the one I'm referring to.
But that came yesterday, right? I was also
Yeah.
I think
thoroughly confused
that
why I had
was
two. I was trying
yesterday.
to figure out what they were until I figured out.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to clean
Yes.
up any confusion, there was a version that was submitted through Jasmine and Planning a couple weeks back, and then the version yesterday, just we talked further about the surety, which we'd also like to talk with the board at some point, hopefully tonight or in the very near future. So there was only one minor change from that prior version, but there was something circulated about two and a half weeks ago, I think. So I'm not sure if board members have had a chance to look at that, but that is substantially the same as what was circulated yesterday.
Yeah, I'm not sure we concentrated on at that point, because with the project, as it kept getting continued, obviously we're kind of wait to see what happens with the project before we revisit the decision. So we didn't focus on it too much for months, really. We started to look at it. We talked about different findings that the board usually talks about and puts in our typical decision. And then we didn't see it for quite a long while. So I don't think we probably revisited that until the project was coming back to us. So, so there, like I said, there may be, I'm most interested, I don't want to speak for the board, I'm most interested in changes to proposed conditions that the YMCA may have issues with, and we would want to know that. But in terms of the way our decision is written and the text that we use, that will be up to the board.
Madam Chair, if I
Yeah.
may, there are a couple of notes in these GCG report that really looks for board approval and
Yes.
DPW. How are we going to approach those? Are we just going to hope that they can run through them, just give a,
I think that should be our
explanation?
focus while we have Paul
Yeah.
listening there online. So I
Yeah.
think, yes, the conditions, the GCG questions that you're talking about, I think is our primary focus for today, to work through some of those.
Okay.
Do you have them marked up in order? You had mentioned the first one.
9 was the first one.
That was the one with the setback.
That one was the setback. It sounds
Excuse me, I don't,
Yes.
it's really hard to hear at this point anyone other than Tricia, so I don't.
Okay.
So,
for the
Kelly,
benefit
we're
of the-
looking at
Of the public,
GCG.
thank you. Perfect. That's fine.
GCG report and going through some of those board relief requests and DPW. If you just want to walk us through what are you looking for in those notes? For example, 9, we just talked about the 20-foot 6 setback pinch point that you have there. There's 11, which talks about parking space. Can you go through some of those and just walk us through what is it that you're looking for from the board?
We might actually just be able to go through these, like, for instance, like you said, starting at 9, to understand where where the board is sitting on this. So, so number 9, as you pointed out, Deepa, was the landscape buffer. So it's not a setback, but the landscape buffer is typically supposed to be 50 feet. The applicant was explaining why it was reduced to 20.6 feet because of the steep corner there leading to wetlands, which basically makes it unbuildable by the next door neighbor. So why don't we comment on those one at a time? Does anyone on the, and I know we mentioned this before on a previous meeting, but does anyone on the board have a question or a concern regarding number 9? They will be asking for relief for that setback, sorry, for that buffer, use the right terminology here, to be 20.6 feet instead of 50 feet.
The only question I had was, that's the only spot, right? It's kind of that reduced buffer?
Is that the only spot of the reduced buffer at that
Yep.
pinch point?
Okay, thanks. That's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure.
Yes, yes. Yep.
So does, and Paul, make sure you make yourself known if you have because I can't see you. Okay.
Yeah, I'll raise my hand when I have a question.
Okay, Jasmine is watching you, so just
Okay.
remember that.
Yep. Great, thanks.
Okay, so otherwise, I will determine that we will write that in as a condition and that it's okay at the board at this point. Okay. Next, what do we got next, Deepa? 11. This is parking space calculations. It does say board approval required. Can you explain, Carrie, what number 11 is on the GCG report?
I can probably speak to that a little bit,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we've obviously talked about parking a lot through this process. We did get the ZBA relief for the size of the parking spaces already, but the ELC has a requirement which we're meeting, and then the remainder use is kind of open-ended per the code. So really what we're looking for is a finding that the amount of parking is appropriate compared to the use that we're proposing, and we provided substantial evidence that this is very similar to the Framingham facility, and this parking ratio is adequate. So it's unfortunately it's not based on our square footage. We need 250 spaces. We have 250. It's a little bit more of a interpretation, open-ended kind of qualification. So we're just looking for relief that the parking as proposed is adequate for the use that's proposed.
So are you asking for more parking than what's required? Is that, or less parking?
There's not really a final figure. So
Okay.
we have adequate parking for the ELC per the requirements, and then the rest is kind of a sliding scale based upon our traffic engineer, the peer review, our proposal, and your ultimate determination. So it'd really just be a determination that the parking as proposed can adequately serve the use.
You know, I don't know if I'm sure somewhere along the line there was a chart or something showing that parking. Isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Parking
the
quantities
use
based on
we've
actual
talked.
program.
Yeah, the actual quantity right now, I believe, is somewhere right around 280 spots. And again, like Matt said, there's not a chart in the bylaw that says you need this many spots per X or Y in a YMCA. So what we had to do is try to figure out what would we need for the program and extrapolate that. And so I think that the reason that this is on here is because there was nothing for GCG to confirm we had the right number. So the only way we could have the right number is by studying the use, the membership projections, and then using Framingham, who has similar membership projections or existing membership, to see what we would actually need to run the building. And again, that's more for the membership building. The ELC is prescribed X number of spaces per child. So that's compliant.
Do we have the breakdown of ELC versus for the membership building?
Yeah. Just a moment. Just have to pull it up here.
Jasmine, is it easy to switch back to the plan so that we can just look at the
Carrie's
parking?
sharing, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I am not sharing anymore. I don't know
I'm sorry,
who
Carrie,
is
I did
sharing.
take back the share. I'm so sorry. I'm going through the decision. Hold on.
Okay.
Yep.
I just thought, I wonder if it was easy to switch back to the plan just quickly so we can kind of see where the parking spaces are. Because I think we all have the GCG report in front of us.
And I would note, it's been a while, but just for everyone's remembering, we did have a separate traffic peer review, and that actually recommended turning our snow storage / flex place space into the additional parking, which we've now done. So there is, even though GCG does comment on this, Vanass actually was the traffic peer review, and I think they closed out their review some time ago based on the a number of factors relating to traffic. But just so we're aware, there was a separate traffic review of this as well outside of GCG.
Yes, yes, I noted that. And also, I was wondering where the snow storage ended up because GCG did talk about it moving, but I wasn't sure. I was looking for it on the plans, and I might have just missed the note about where the snow storage ended up. Are you
Yeah,
able to bring
I'll
the
bring up
plan?
both sides here.
Oh, really? It is a big file. All right. I don't have a problem with the number of parking. It seems, I'd hate to say that I'd like to pave over more to provide more parking. So does anyone have a, I know that's not really mathematical.
If you guys are wildly successful, like, is there a way to expand parking, or is it basically kind of what you end up with is what you're gonna have for kind of ever?
I can just speak from what I know from the Y. I think that if they were wildly successful, they would have to stagger programming to adapt to car needs.
So change something else to,
Yeah,
So that-
exactly. There's also opportunities to, depending on what those activities are, to, have kids take the bus there or, et cetera. But I think Framingham is a pretty successful Y. And again, we modeled this off of what they're using. We actually even went over to see, do they have extra spaces and really kind of dialed in on these numbers. So we feel pretty confident in that.
And the parking spaces are also not following Ashland standard. I think they are smaller. Is that 9
They
by
are, yes,
18 versus 9 by 20?
That's correct. We did receive the relief from the ZBA. They're kind of industry standard now, but not necessarily Ashland zoning bylaw standard. But we did get the relief.
yeah, that was the point that we made, boy, it was a while ago now, that looking for relief from that 9 by 18, and then Jasmine actually made the comment that I don't know if the planning board actually has the authority to grant that relief. And it was determined, I believe, by town council that it was the zoning board of appeals that grants that relief and not us. So they did get it granted by the zoning board of appeals, and now it's back to us.
It's right below the next one. I didn't notice that. When you find those numbers, we can look at it, but I guess we should move on. There is 7 as well. Looks like there is some comment on the height, and I don't know if it is a building department comment versus planning board.
Sorry, you're backtracking to 7?
Yeah, sorry.
I think the height, I think the question there, I think, is about how the average height is calculated.
Yeah.
And that was saying that the building department, Doug Scott will probably be calculating that. I think for our point, it was about that they are asking for relief for the height in general, because the back is 3 stories and I don't remember what the front height is. We've looked at it before.
It's just 2 stories, yep, and that's exactly right, Tricia. So when you do that average calculation of the height across the perimeter of the building, it's higher than what is within the bylaw. And so there was a request for an allowable height by Matt's special permit.
That's correct. Yeah. So we're in between the zone of what's by right and not allowed, which falls into a special permit. So we are seeking that relief.
Yeah, and I want to say the height from the street was around 35 feet, is that right?
46.5.
30, what'd you say?
46.5, right?
I thought that was at the back.
The back is 54.5.
Yeah, one moment. That one I have. That one I have, and I can share. From the front, 34'8". Again, if I can, if you want me to share that, 34'8" is what you'll see from the front of the building.
So what's the 46 feet 5 inches on this note that is there? That says its proposed height. The first sentence or second sentence.
That
of
is likely,
Is that referring to another?
Yeah, that is, it's worded kind of strangely there, but that's GCG wording it strangely.
Should have elevations here.
Is it 30 feet by height in that area? Maybe it was. What's that?
46 feet 5 inches be average.
That might be the average. I think what we were determining.
no, yeah.
I remember talking about how an average single-family home is allowed to be 35 feet in the residential 1A districts. And so this wasn't, so it surprises me then that the height in that district is 30 feet, but.
Because that special permit is by us, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of the things they were asking for from the
So did we
beginning.
just hear the architect say 46 feet 5 inches?
No, I think that was Rick just offering what that dimension might be. I'm not sure what that dimension is that GCG is. I'm trying to find a drawing that will show that.
I can weigh in here
So
if
I can
that
kind
is
of try to
helpful.
solve that.
Yeah. Hey, Carrie, Lonnie's
Oh.
on. Let's let the architect.
Oh, Lonnie,
Yep,
yeah.
sorry. So Lonnie Ash from CBT. So that 46.5 was the dimension from the lowest level to the roof. When GCG commented and asked us for the mean or the height from the mean grade, we did provide them with the calculation. So the height from the average grade is actually 40 feet 9 inches. And we provided them that chart. So in that response there, they said the chart seems reasonable, and that's where that last response was.
And then what is the 54.5 feet? Partial 2 levels in the north elevation, 54.5 feet.
I'm not sure where the 54 is coming from.
It might have been early on.
That might have been we were never over 50.
Okay.
Yep.
If you can just make a note, just to send to Jasmine, those written out clearly so that something we can put, if we need to, we can put in the condition, like what the height from the street, the median height, and the, I guess, the average height and the tallest height from the back. Like, I know you know those numbers, so it'd be nice for us to, they are a little unclear here in GCG's report. So the question then is, does anyone have was there any issues with those heights? We had discussed it previously.
I think it'd be important to really see all these numbers in writing. There are too many numbers floating around right now.
Yeah.
In my head, it's not clear. So it may be helpful to just see them in writing, and then we can.
Yeah, obviously, if you can send those in writing, and I believe if the, to make sure the elevations that we have are up to date. I'm not sure when if there's still, if all the work since we saw you last has been site work, or if there's any more, if the elevations have been brought up you know.
Yeah,
current-
largely site work. Yeah, so we'll send
Okay.
we'll send an image that shows the elevation.
Yeah, and put the elevation put the elevations on the drawings, just so we have a complete set of drawings that we can refer to in the decision as well. That reiterates all the information. Okay, I think then, unless I'm wrong, Deepa, we're back down to 13, which talks about the accessible spaces, but that says resolved.
Yep.
It sounds like everything is there.
The next one was 19.
Okay. And that is regarding delivery area. Okay, so delivery area was proposed in front of the YMCA. It talks about the non-standard delivery area at the Early Learning Center. Is that the board approval required there?
Can one of you walk us through what that is about? And
Andy might be
don't-
able to jump in on this one. I think it's not required, but we do have an extra delivery area over there. It's kind of an added-on feature, I believe. But Andy, if you're available, I don't know if you can jump in and speak to that a little bit further.
Yeah, and if I can share my screen, it might help just to talk this through.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just a moment.
Okay, so you should see the site plan any second now.
Yes.
And I think GCG's comment is relative to not providing like a designated loading space or loading area for the ELC, but we were planning on using this space in front of the shed as loading. So it's not really designated, but it's not really a very well used area of the parking lot. So that's kind of the plan. That's what they're commenting on.
And we talk about loading deliveries for an early learning center or even for the YMCA as the main building. When you think about your
fairly
Framingham
minimal,
location,
Tricia,
what are loading and deliveries like for the Framingham location?
Yeah, so I can comment on that. And if you stay right where you are there, you'll see that the arrow pointing that says proposed concrete ramp. So in general, most of the deliveries that come for the Y are coming off of UPS. They're, Amazon orders or things like that, paper towels and equipment like that. They're not not large deliveries. There will be food deliveries to the ELC. And so right where Andy's little hand is there, you'll see there is a accessible route up to that back door, which puts them right into the pantry of the kitchen. But that's the bulk of it. Any special deliveries that would, be equipment or such would either happen, by going down this back access road or be delivered to right where they need to be. But the daily deliveries for the Y are just like, you would get at a, small shop. They're not, they certainly don't need a loading dock of any type for their operations.
Okay, so it's not like at the Framingham Y, it's not like getting the Dunkin' Donuts delivery truck in there every day.
Correct.
It's just
yeah. At Framingham, it doesn't have a dock. Everything comes in through the front door. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've provided relief for that before in the bylaws because there's so many businesses. This was like at 9 to 29. We did because the delivery, they just don't get that type of deliveries, even though it's a business, right? It's not a grocery store, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I know we've
Andy,
had to
while you have
relief for that before.
plan, we may be able to answer the question. There was a question about how many parking spots are at the Early Learning Center versus in the rest of the site. So Early Learning has 87 spots, correct?
Correct.
And the total count at the moment is
289.
289.
289. And so again, one of the comments from GCG, we had proposed not striping that area to the left there that's identified as 26 spots and using that for longer term overflow parking. And I think GCG's point was you might as well stripe it now so that it's there and you're ready for it, which precluded us from using that for snow storage. So we did identify locations off the edge of the curb, both here and in other spots in the parking lot where we could store snow that would not impact the strategy for the landscaping.
And how many accessible spots do you have for the 87?
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Well, it's two ADA spaces.
Do you not need three
Two
or more
88.
than 50?
We have 8 accessible spaces total. You can see that the two, where the
Well-
cursor was now was 6, and now over there is 2. So there's 8 total for the 289, which exceeds the requirement, which I believe is 7.
But for the 87, for the ELC, do you not need 3 spots right in that location?
So the 87, just to be clear, is to the left of the ELC. That's not all. Obviously, that's an insane amount of parking for just the ELC. The requirements for that are 1 space per employee and then 1 space per 5 children. So we're at 98 children. So rounding that up, that's about 20 spaces for children and then 1 per employee, which, Carrie, I don't know if you have an up-to-date number on proposed employees. But for the ELC itself, it's probably somewhere between 30 and 40 that's required per code. And then the delta of that out of 289 is what's, kind of exclusively dedicated to the to the general membership. But obviously there's expected to be some interaction. These are not meant to be necessarily separate parking courts. They kind of all go together, but we have the dedicated space by the ELC for those times.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the accessibility is based on that total 289.
Okay. And that one didn't require relief from us, so, because it's meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't think the other area required relief. It was just more of a confirmation, right? Because there's not a clear bylaw that tells us what that count should be per member. So it's just a confirmation from planning that we calculated it based on our need and that you were all okay with that.
Okay.
And like Matt said, that went through traffic engineering and then traffic peer review as well.
Like I said, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of parking provided, and personally, I would hate to pave over more of that green space in back to provide even more parking. So,
Sure.
I like the idea of changing programming, separating the most popular classes, say, in order to keep the parking lot full, but not having to add more spaces. Okay, I lost my place here. Deepa, did you know what was next?
The next one is 19.
That-
That's what we did. We're okay with the non-standard loading area, it sounds like.
Anyone else, anyone have any comments on the non-standard loading, no loading dock? We're good? Okay. Okay.
Is there going to be signage for like Amazon or UPS to know to go to those back doors versus trying to come in that front door?
So the only folks that will be coming to the back door are going to be food deliveries that are scheduled. Everything else will come through the front door.
Food deliveries for ELC, not for the membership building, correct?
Correct. Yeah, there's no food service provided in the
In the main
membership
building.
center.
So
Yeah.
the front door of the ELC is the one that's facing Memorial Drive, correct? It's got like that big sidewalk area in the front.
Mhm.
So, but you're not expecting Amazon to park in those, like right outside that entryway and just walk in there? Like you're expecting them to go to the back loading area?
They could.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that yeah, I mean, I think that we're not talking about like a store. The ELC should not be getting frequent deliveries. It'll be more of like a residential type delivery. If it's an Amazon, they'll stop, drop the package and go. There should be like Matt said, should be ample parking over there for them to find a spot or to pull over, like Andy said, in front of the shed to find a spot. So
And Carrie, at Framingham, we have 2 separate entrances, and for like Amazon, small deliveries, could be arts and craft supplies, whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to just go in the main building, or they're going to go in the back door. So there won't be deliveries in the front door of the early learning center. That wouldn't be typical.
Okay.
The next number, though, 20, is about signage. Since you had mentioned sign, it's about the monument sign proposed at the southeast corner of the driveway. Can we bring up the plan again, too? I remember where that is, but it's nice to have it on the screen.
Yeah, Andy, you want to share since you have that set, my computer can't handle Zoom and downloading that set to open up. It's
Yeah,
stalled
if it's
out.
difficult, well.
Yeah.
We do have hard
No,
copies in
Andy's
front of
got
us,
it.
so, okay. Yeah, so I think the comment here is, the sign is proposed at a location outside the front, side, or rear yard. Right, okay. So, right, it's just on the street, and I think the, GCG just recommends adding the sign permit as part of the approval conditions. So we do this, we've done this for other
Yep,
projects as
and
well. That
we're
hey,
fine with that.
Yeah, the sign isn't designed
Yep.
yet. It's not perfectly clear what it's going to be, so it's just that they'll have to come back for a sign permit, which goes through the building inspector.
We're fine with that. Yep.
Okay. I assume we're fine with that, the board? Okay. Let's see.
21, I'm just curious about that note. GCG recommends adding architectural shed plan as part of approval conditions.
Right, so is that the shed back by the Early Learning Center?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think that's the same line of thinking as the last one. It's just to put as an approval condition. We have it obviously cited, but we never submitted any kind of architectural plans. So I think that's just the idea, is to condition it so that when those plans are available, those would be submitted as part of the package.
Okay, so the size of the shed is kind of outlined, but we need drawings for them before it's built.
Yep.
Correct.
Sure.
And I think it's located, yeah, in the back of the parking lot. I assume it's for equipment, maintenance, like
Yep. Exactly.
storage, general shed purposes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why we all
I
have a
think
sh-
some of
why
it
we
too,
all
we
have a
still have
shed
to
in our
figure out.
backyard.
Well, what is interesting is adding it as part of your approval conditions. That was what was intriguing to me.
Yeah, I assume it's just because it has not been designed yet and your focus has not been on the shed. Is that?
Yeah, and our kind of general approach was to permit the master plan. You know, we also haven't fully designed, you know, the backfields and what all that could be. But to be really transparent about what we think like kind of the maximum use would be. But I think it's reasonable to say, you know, we don't know what that shed looks like. So it's hard to, you know, present it, nor do we know when we will build it. And so I think it would be reasonable to say we could provide, you know, documents of what it's going to be, obviously in advance of applying for a building permit.
I'm okay with that being a condition. Is everyone else? We don't need to know what the shed looks like right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So,
37 to 40 all relate to drainage reports. And I'm guessing that's more details that's coming off in the latter phase of the project.
I just want to go back a minute to 23, because it's in red that a 5-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk has been proposed along Memorial Drive. So that just isn't proposed, that's definitely a part of the plan now, right? That was what we saw in the drawings, the sidewalk
Yep.
all along Memorial Drive, okay.
Is that the one
Yep.
that you were,
Yeah.
Scott was asking?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
it wasn't
that's
just
res-
being
yeah,
proposed.
he's got
but-
it listed as
Because there's
resolved.
no
Yeah,
resolved
We'll
in
call
front
it
of that one.
Scott's Walk.
yeah, it's there.
It does say
Yeah,
resolve.
Yeah, I meant, I meant the dark blue GCG, kind of going back with their,
No, the red at the top, right above the 24. That's
yes, yeah, but the red is the red I thought the red was. who's
Red's
com-
GCG. Yeah,
I'm sorry?
all the resolves come from GCG.
Yeah.
The red is GCG too? Oh.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so where did you say we were, Deepa? We're at,
37 to 40, it was too technical for me.
right. Yeah, so those are all,
Drainage report related.
right. And I think they're
Which
all,
say resolved. They all say resolved.
I think they're all resolved. Yeah,
Well, I don't know if the 41 on 40 is resolved.
They all defer to the comment below, which resolves with number 40.
Is that how you should read that?
Yes. So from 37, it says see comment below. 38, see
Well,
comment
it
below.
says-
39, see comment below. Number 40,
Yeah, the 40
finish,
says
replace lawn,
GCG
resolve.
recommends removing the riprap armor at the FES outlet, which is too close to the edge. So I don't know if that's resolved, but giving you a direction of what should be done.
Andy, can you maybe opine on this a little further? We're confident it's resolved, but can you just confirm since you went back and forth with GCG?
Yeah, yeah, all these issues concerning drainage have been resolved and have been closed out. That was just regarding a little riprap apron at the end of a pipe, which we removed.
and were all these end comments, or those ones that were, was that part of,
These are all GCG.
Concom?
Concom's approval.
Were they a part of Concom, like, or things that they went through with Concom, the drainage? And
Whatever
no.
whatever has been approved for drainage with conservation would be reflected in these comments from Mike Carter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Concom.
Yeah, there was a concurrent review for drainage, for stormwater and drainage that was being done by GCG for both planning and conservation.
Right,
So
like
conservation
Conservation.
Monday that they're
Yeah, conservation gets the same reviews that we do.
Yes.
But they are looking,
Correct.
obviously, of the things that are in their
Right.
purview.
And it was approved,
Yeah.
I believe.
So. Okay. So, and then there are a few things in here. Deepa, did you see anything else or anyone else that,
There are the DPW related.
that's what I was gonna say, there's DPW related things. The fire, police and fire are all resolved, is that right?
Yes.
And then the 70, I guess it's the same. Landscape buffer that we're talking about here, I think. What is this?
Yeah, I think that's 70, right? 70 is the
Yeah.
same buffer. But what about 68?
Yeah.
68 is looking for trees in the parking area.
So if I understand, and I may have gotten this wrong, but what I think happened is that was gonna be the snow area, then they paved it, which created 26 more spaces. So because there's 26 more spaces, then technically we could ask for 4 more trees. Am I understanding that correctly?
That sounds reasonable. So is someone from the YMCA can explain that one to us? We're on 68, where it says board approval required for 68, about trees in the parking area. It looks like GCG
yeah,
is
I mean,
looking for.
I guess I understand. I feel like we're getting punished for doing what we were asked to do, but if it's gonna take 4 trees, we'll make it a condition and we'll add 4 trees to that parking lot. It's not a big deal.
Does it have to be that parking lot though, or can it just be like 4
That's the intent, is to break up the pavement, so that's why it's specified how many trees per parking space. Because it's meant to not have an island of parking. That's the intent, yeah.
I don't see the need for that, and just seeing the winter we just had, like, those 26 spots along that back row aren't gonna be enough to hold all the snow for this huge parking lot between, if you're trying to store all the snow in that one spot, from all 289 spaces. That's gonna be really tough. If it's a winter like we just had.
I think it's just to prevent heat islands. It is quite a bit of,
Yeah, but if you start jamming all the snow into those trees, like, I mean, I'd rather, if it didn't have to be in that's, I mean, it's also, if I'm not wrong, that's up against the, what is it called? The retaining wall is gonna be right on the other side of that, right?
Correct.
do we have a planting drawing? Have we seen that? We had a design review board who did that, but
I think this is the,
Yeah, on one of her slides earlier, she mentioned how like the front row only had to have X number of trees, but they really have 49, you know, across the front, and some other notes like that. So there's a bunch of trees. I'm just saying in these specific areas where this snow piece is supposed to be, I think it'd be weird to try to force the 4 trees into that specific space.
and I think that's why the number of parking spot calculation is important. Do we have more than what we need?
You mean total trees?
No, parking spots.
I think
Well-
Deepa is saying, do we have,
More parking spots than we need.
Yeah, in that ELC area, he mentioned earlier that they only needed
30 or 40?
Yeah, 30, yeah, exactly. And they have actually 89 over there, but of those 89, 26 are that snow section, kind of where his hand is right there, going up and down that whole west side. I think that's the west.
I thought that was the snow section, and now it is not. Now it's parking spaces and
Right,
snow
but
section.
they're going to be putting the snow there when it comes down, is what they're saying.
Actually, that's
Happens to
No,
be-
yeah, we have a new snow storage area to not overlap with that.
Yeah, that was part of that response from GCG, is to actually not use that as snow storage and use it as parking. And then, so we were proposing to push the snow over the far side of the curb, yeah, there, and then along some of the other areas in the parking lot, the bigger parking lot, where we have space between trees and shrubs that aren't going to get impacted by that. I mean, I think the reality, to your point, I mean, that would be a great spot to put the snow in winters like this, right? And I think extreme measures may happen when there are situations like that. But yeah, the goal is, you know, to just take it off the parking lot altogether, since those are now considered parking spaces.
They're parking spaces because you were asked to do that, to add parking spaces?
We can't hear you.
Who
So the-
asked you to do the parking spaces?
To
Those
add parking
GCs?
spaces?
So GCG had suggested, we had shown an area that was the size of 26 spaces and proposed it to be unlined so that we could use it for snow storage. And GCG had suggested that if we were going to pave it, we might as well line it. And so we tried to find a new spot for snow storage. I mean, I would also be happy with the idea of letting it be lined and also letting it be used as snow storage.
But I think to get back to the point, though, the overall analysis of the parking capacity for the use did contemplate that. So we would not want to remove spaces and
Yeah.
go against the changes that have been made and kind of reviewed.
Yeah, I think the question is really just about the 4 trees, you know, that we're back to. I think that
Right.
that in any kind of winter, when we have a snowstorm like we just had, you're going to take up parking spaces for some snow, at least temporarily. Happened at my building, you know, so because where do you
Right.
go with this stuff, right, until you can remove it? So, but the question at hand, I think, is the 4 trees. Scott, you had made a point that a very early slide said that along the front, 29 trees were needed, but I think 46 were planted or something like that. Am I making those numbers up?
No, that sounds right.
It's in the ballpark. I'm not sure
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, there was a slide, one of the first slides you showed this evening, I
Yep,
think
I'll pull it
showed
back
that.
up.
Right. And I
So-
think that's what the comment refers to about board approval is we do have, I believe, over 200 new trees throughout the site, most of which are in the parking lot. So that's where your ability as a board to say maybe it's not appropriate to have 1 per 8 in that section of the parking lot because they're not viable, or there's already the tree line that exists, to the west heading towards the path. So I think that's why GCG mentioned that would need board approval if deemed appropriate, because there's enough trees throughout the site.
I think this is a question where I would love Becca, if she was still on, to weigh in. Do trees in these little islands where they already have 2 of them in that parking lot, do they survive okay there? I mean, there's obviously a whole line right across the parking lot of trees in this little median. And how well do they do? But the point is to break up the concrete
I think
to heat island effect, but I don't have the knowledge to kind of comment on that.
I'm not 100% sure we need to remove those.
To remove what?
I mean, what's the concern with the 4 trees exactly?
That we would be adding, they're missing 4 trees
Yeah.
from that parking lot. So should they be put in? Should we lose a couple parking spaces or plant a few trees around that parking area?
I mean,
How many parking
area
spaces are we going to lose?
area that he showed us, or whoever kind of zoomed in, where you were proposing snow storage. Yeah, right where your cursor is. That's an area where you can just add 4 more trees and call it a day. And then you leave your flexibility of 26 parking spots or snow storage. But is there anything that would prevent you from adding just 4 trees there and just?
I think the snow storage kills the trees if you're going to actually
Well, you're going to use the parking spots as 26 parking spots for snow storage. So it's not really, you're not pushing it in that corner now. Realistically, you're going to need those parking spots to actually store snow. And that area that was highlighted is not going to be sufficient for the kind of snow that we got recently. It's a good example.
Yeah, but it can't, those are like emergency situations, and that's not how the document can play out.
6 inches of snow would overwhelm that section. I'm saying I don't think we need to enforce the 4 trees. That's my recommendation, is not to enforce the 4 extra trees. But that's just my.
Is not to what?
Enforce the 4 extra trees. Because I think that there's more trees in all the other areas of the parking lot above and beyond what they require.
How about we park this, and I know you had a concern about how many trees were coming down and how many trees were kind of put back. So I don't know if we took that to the finish line, maybe we kind of have that conversation at that point and figure out if this tree needs to be added or not.
So it sounds like we're concerned about the 4 because we might lose a couple of parking spaces. How many are we losing? Are we talking about like 6?
Can I clarify?
Yeah, I'm getting.
I don't think it's talking about losing spaces. I think that there's a tree recommendation that you would put X number of trees per X number of spots. Because we were asked to create these spots, we theoretically, with that calculation of whatever 1 to 8 or whatever it is, we would be required to add 4 more trees to the parking lot. And I think the point is that they don't really fit. We're okay with adding 4 trees or actually being given that relief, given that we're planting 46 where we only need 29. But I don't think we're talking about losing spaces.
Okay, so what if we just move those 4? What if we move those 4 somewhere else?
That kind of defies the intent of it, though.
So the intent was to kind of redistribute the trees inside the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just to reduce the heat islands.
I understand. And the reason that there's relief being sought is, I'm still perplexed. Is the relief being sought because we need space to store snow, or is the relief being sought because we need a few more parking spots? I'm still not really understanding why the relief is being requested.
I would say the latter, because we were advised to make those full-time parking spaces. It triggered the need for the 4 additional trees, which weren't reflected on the plan. And because of the snow storage, the pavement, and then obviously the wooded forest area directly to the left already, there really isn't a prime place to plant those. I think Carrie's mentioning we're okay adding 4 trees on the site, or we would certainly accept the board's approval that in this case we've already added over 200 trees, that's, you know, sufficient. Where I think if you go by the 1x8, our 289 gets us somewhere around 36 trees in the parking area. And obviously you can see from the plans, you know, we kind of far exceed that already. So sometimes there's flexibility to allow a condition like this where it's just not appropriate to put the trees there, or they're going to die or be shaded by the forest to the left already. So let's put them somewhere more functional, or which again, we've kind of already done with this distribution of trees proposed in the main parking court.
So what I'm hearing Jasmine say is moving those 4 is counter to the whole point of having them be integrated in the parking lot. What I'm hearing the applicant say is having those 4 there doesn't quite work for the design of the parking and the snow removal. So to me, 4 trees can somehow creatively get a new home somewhere on the site that works for the applicant. I'm okay giving them up in that one little location, and I don't know if the solution is just don't plant the 4. I mean, it's 4 trees. I'm not hearing enough of a case that we just get rid of the 4 and don't worry about them because there's other trees on the site. I say just find a different location for them.
Yeah, given that I mean, when we make parking regulations for trees in parking lots, it's kind of taking into account that it's a sea of asphalt and you're trying to break that up. In this case, yes, it's a sea of asphalt, but the whole, what is it, western edge of it, northern edge, where the retaining wall is forested. So, and trees are being planted along the early learning center. So, yes, it's a lot of asphalt in the middle. I'm not sure it helps to carve that up with a few trees, actually. So, I guess I would, if we're gonna do that, I would want Becca to weigh in, like, how useful is that? I mean, we're doing it other places, but.
And it's also the west side of this one, so it's not like you are going to get crazy heat island effect there. If it was south, it's a different thing, but that's also west of the property, so.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a deal breaker technically.
All right. I think we're okay with the 4 trees. Can you find a home for them?
Sure.
Can you plant
Yes.
them somewhere else?
Yeah, we have a whole backyard to plant them.
Okay.
Just don't have enough island space in our parking lot.
All right, let's look that we find them a nice little house somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I see waiver approval required at 70. What is that one? Oh, that's the 50 feet again. Sorry, that's the same, site relief on that tricky corner. I don't see anything on the next page, and then I have the drainage report that goes from pages 14 to 20, which is, yeah, got even more technical. But looks like it was fully resolved. Did you see anything that we
Nope.
missed? I didn't see that.
So the DPW ones,
Yes, so what's remaining is the DPW questions, which
Yeah.
will have to go to them. What would,
so the first one I think is 55.
I think that may have been the only one.
okay. All right, so it looks like we got through this, which was the big thing that we were looking for. Obviously, we're not going to be going through the decision yet tonight, but all of this will be, everything that we talked about being conditioned will be conditioned in the decision. As I said, we're gonna have to go back and look at the changes made relative to, I don't know if, especially Anna and Deepa, if they got a chance to look at that decision. It was just sent in the past couple days. Because with the changes on it, it differs significantly, kind of from our typical decision. And I'm not sure we're ready to do that on a whim. Versus, I think it was just a different way to put it, a different format.
So if I may, Madam Chair, through you, just
Please.
explain. So I drafted the decision, and then I sent it to Matt Eckel, and he and I worked together to get the draft that is before you now. Matt Eckel is the applicant's attorney. So we worked together on this draft, and it is very untypical to go through every single criteria and answer it individually. It makes for a very long decision, and the conditions are really where you're holding weight in a decision. So to go through each criteria and say individually and answer it, yes, you've met it, instead of answering it as a whole at the end of a section, is just very unique. So we had drafted it the way standard decisions have been drafted, so that's why it is different. It's not that any of the intent has changed, it just makes it a more manageable document for everybody that has to work with it afterward, because to go through each line item and say, yes, this criteria is met and this is how, is not typical to a decision, and that's not what's held up in it. So the conditions are what's viable and what then the building department and the DPW and everybody else works with after. So it just makes it from like a 27-page document to a 12 to 15-page document is the intent of it.
Yeah, and I understand that thought process, but having been,
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I was just
yeah,
explaining
no,
how we got
yeah,
there.
I appreciate that explanation because it was a little bit of a surprise to me, and just knowing the history of the board and how we got there. And it was really about, over years, it was a thought about being accountable to the residents and to the public about the bylaws that we were intended to uphold, and that we did specifically think about every criteria that the bylaw mandates that we think about. And so that's how we came into that format. So that's why I don't take that change lightly. And while we'll have to take another look at it. So
But those,
I will say, I appreciate the applicant's involvement and energy. Matt Eckel would be the attorney representing them, who I'm sure is excellent, great firm. But I do have to say, like, it's our decision, not the applicant's to draft.
oh, for certain. I always work with the applicants
absolutely.
with their decisions, though, so that way nobody's surprised and everybody's clear. That's very common practice to work with the applicant.
Somewhat
in my-
unusual for us as a board. I don't recall us ever doing that with the applicant's attorney ever in my time at the board. So that also gives me pause because it creates a precedent where obviously this is a very unique, special, exciting project. But once we start treating a project with sort of special attention where we're like, well, with this project, we're going to work directly with council to
That's
draft
common
it.
practice for me.
And it might be for you, but this town, this board has a lot of pride in transparency. And I, for one, would be extremely cautious to create a precedent where our planner sits down with a council, excellent attorney, by the way, for an applicant to draft something without a lot of caution. I'm just going to underline that.
I am going to say that, given that that for the past 5 years before Jasmine came on board, I did work closely with the town planner. And I can't speak for all, but I know many of those decisions were sent to the applicant and to the applicant's attorney so that they could review.
Absolutely.
Yeah, review
And if
the-
that's what
yeah.
happened, if Jasmine drafted
Yes.
this and she just showed
Yes.
them a draft, that's one thing. But what I
Absolutely.
heard was that the format is completely different from what we've done before, so that
And that was
gave
my
me
doing.
pause.
Yes, that was
Okay.
my
Okay. In that case, I'll take what I say back. If Jasmine was the one who takes responsibility for changing our format that we had developed over decades, and the applicant had no idea and just went along with it, then I take what I say back.
That's, sorry, I misspoke.
So, and that gives me a different kind of concern, which is ultimately that prior format, like Tricia said, is due to our really hard work and transparency with our bylaws and being super clear with our people that we are really following the bylaws exactly.
Yeah, and that said, I don't want this to turn into a discussion with the Y because it's a discussion with the board. But it is something that I have actually even before Jasmine came on board, that said, you know, and maybe it's because of me dealing with decisions that I know about in other towns, that we really should look at ours to see if our decisions, if they're reading the way we want them to read, and that it's something that we should look at in a board, that kind of format. So I don't think it's, I think it's a little heads up that Jasmine's giving us, that, you know, you guys do things a little bit outside the norm, which is okay, but we should be aware of that and make sure it's a conscious decision. But again, not something that's relative, that we're going to hang on the Y shoulders or around the Y's neck. Not their problem, our problem. So anyway, I'm thrilled that you all were back here today. You had your team. We got through this GCG report. We went through all the details. And then we'll be looking to put that into the decision. And then next time, be looking at that decision to make sure it says everything that we talked about today, everything we wanted to say. Does that make sense? Any questions, anybody?
Yeah, thank you to this team for being patient and going through those comments, because that's going to help us go through that decision faster.
Yes.
Than
Yes.
wondering what we talked about 6 months ago. So thank you for being patient there.
Yes, our board is famous for not closing the public hearing until we are really, really, really sure we want to close it, which is usually at the very last minute. So don't take the not
And
closing.
may I just confirm that the only thing I heard that you hear, that I heard that we need to get to you is just a clear representation of not only the calculation of the building height as it's an average of around the perimeter, but also what is the view from the street and what is the view from the backyard. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that we understand those heights. And I think, Deepa, did you still want some breakdown of the parking numbers if they exist? I don't.
Sure, that would be, I think because you want that as a special permit, especially the heights, and I think having that, that would help. Parking spots.
The parking should be pretty clear on the site
Yeah,
plan.
I think you're good now.
Okay.
I think you gave us some numbers, so that's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I just get a clarification?
Yep.
The draft that we're talking about is the one that was attached to the February 24th email?
That sounds right.
No, there's an email like
No, you should
a
have
day
gotten a
ago.
new one like 2 days ago. It just has two minor edits in it, but that's,
Oh, okay.
let me tell you the exact date, sorry.
I think the original emails were dated around the 24th, which is what
Okay.
I was thinking, if you went back in the emails.
Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right draft.
Yeah, the one from 2 days ago has the last little minor changes.
Yeah, and I think there were two files, one marked redlined and one marked clean.
Okay, so I think I'm looking at the right thing.
So just so
It's a February 24th draft, though. That's the problem. So if I'm looking at the February 24th draft, that's not the most recent, is what you're saying?
It was sent yesterday at 3:16,
Okay.
and there should be, like Scott said, 2 versions, red line and a clean version.
Do we need to go through the traffic studies as well?
You've done that previously. That was done a long time ago.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Was that, when was that traffic report? Is it more than a year?
I think there were already the things that I think affected things as part of this, right? Sight lines and the sidewalks that went in.
So we didn't have anything on the decision on those?
I don't think so. We can look at it
Yeah,
ourselves
yeah.
between now and then.
Do you want me to resend it, Anna? Sorry. Would that be helpful?
Sure. I literally just need to know the title of the document.
Oh.
You just search under her name, it came.
Okay.
So what's the timeline then for us to give them the decision? Like, I don't know how this works, so.
Well, assuming that they will just be continuing to 2 weeks to March 26th, right?
I'm assuming you would be.
Right.
March 26th.
So,
We'd like, yes, please.
yeah, so that, as soon as we can just get through the decision. So hopefully we'll work to get that out as early as possible. so that people have time to read it. The conditions are usually the most important part, and those will just be outlined here. In fact, maybe those you can work on right away and just send out that section of conditions.
Yep. And then so if that's all good and we all like it, then 2 weeks from now, we're giving the thumbs up type of thing?
Yeah, I don't,
Awesome, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure like where we're at. So,
Timeline.
thanks.
Did you get it, Anna? Sorry.
Oh, you said you just resent it?
are there
I tried,
any,
but sometimes it takes a minute.
any further questions from the Y? Sorry, was
That's Paul.
that Paul? Do you have a question?
No, sorry. I was gonna ask, but I don't have a question. Sorry.
I appreciate you hanging in there, Paul.
Yeah, I'm trying to move around because I got construction going on behind me, so I
So
apologize.
to be clear, these are the exact versions I was looking at, and they're both saved as February 24th, even though they were from a few days ago. So
Oh,
Okay.
my
okay.
level of
Sorry,
confusion was
sorry.
not me being
Okay.
an idiot, but it was the fact that the only versions I have available are literally dated February 24th. So people kept saying, there's a new version from 2 days ago that I absolutely did not receive and does not exist, at least in title.
I'm
So
so sorry
that we're
about
all
that,
on the
Anna.
same page.
Okay. Then I think we are ready for a motion to continue this to the 26th, and at that time, hopefully, we'll be looking at decisions.
Madam Chair, if I may, not to belabor this any
Yeah.
further, but the one thing I think that we would hope to get a little bit more conversation with and clarification is the surety bond. We know
Oh,
the
okay.
town has a precedent for larger projects to impose that. GCG did provide one. We have some somewhat conflicting numbers, not apples to oranges, but slightly different. So I think we just want some clarification, and this doesn't have to happen now, but maybe some thought, whether it's with the town manager or whatnot, about forms of that and an ultimate number and how that will be conditioned. There is a placeholder condition currently, which contemplates perhaps splitting it up in the future, since this is a phased project, and what method that'll ultimately be. So again, I don't know that we have to dig into that too much further tonight, but we would hope to obviously not have that be a brand new issue in 2 weeks and then have to continue again because there's
Yes,
uncertainty.
that makes sense, and typically, I think that is written by our town council, or has been in the past.
Okay, so this particular instance, we did receive a quote from Mike Carter, which is typically you receive the quote from peer review, and then is being reviewed by a town manager's office right
Oh,
now.
yeah, I meant the verbiage.
Yes,
and not-
yes,
yeah.
sorry, yes.
Okay, and not the number. Yeah, so I don't actually know too much about where that is, but I think it's fair that gets discussed in the meantime, so that we're not held up on that.
Absolutely. So the town manager is currently discussing that number with town council and the peer review.
Okay.
And we're also working with our treasurer to see that there's certain different types of bonds or sureties that you could put in place. So we're just trying to see what is the best
Okay,
for this project.
Okay.
And it may be something that can be released in phases, or there's a lot of moving parts right now, so
okay, so that, I would assume we would be getting a recommendation from them.
yes.
It is out of my wheelhouse completely, knowing where that number should be, so I would be very much looking for a recommendation from the town and town council about where that
Yes,
should be.
which they're working on.
And I believe also there is going to be a condition, we talked about a condition with town council about, being, the design being in such an early stage, which is we talked about before, and, how we regulate that, how we determine, if something is a major change from what we've seen, when is that line crossed that we need to see it on planning board. And so town council was working on some kind of flexible verbiage about that as well. So,
EV parking spots, this is a project in the future.
They have them are EV ready already, capped.
Did we have a count of how many
Yes, they
EV
met.
ready spots were there out of the 289?
Yes, that's marked on the plans.
It's
It is.
yeah, it's on here. I think it's 20 spots right there on the lower level.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if there's more other places, but that's just the first one I saw.
I think that's all of them.
okay. So anything else? We
And
can,
the only other thing I would add, just to be completely transparent, and I think you all know this, but we are not prepared to build this entire master plan day one. So if there are conditions that need to be considered, whether it be through the surety or other conditions that are related to, kind of interim conditions, I think that would be important. The Y is looking to get going immediately on the early learning center, but there may be a situation where that is built, but the membership's not. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want that to be a stumbling block either.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we want it to be, and that's why, I think, the primary reason why, when we get back to decisions, that we want the applicant attorney to look through it to make sure those special circumstances are covered in the way the conditions or, are proposed. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, so we definitely want it to work for all parties, so.
Yeah.
Would you put that as part of your decisions about phasing? So that trees are not brought down?
Well, the clearing is intended to be part of phase one, so the entire site is meant to be cleared in the initial phase, so they only have to bring in the equipment one time.
I think,
Something to think about. I mean,
That's all the erosion control measures are phased in their
Yeah.
stormwater management
I
plan.
think the question is more about, do you plant trees in an area where you're going to be doing perhaps more construction, right? And again, I think that's where the applicant attorney takes a look at that and says, hey, we need something to cover this condition, because of the way it might be phased or it might be built, or, to make sure we allow for that, expansion and contraction of in the decision, so.
Thank you.
Is it fair? Okay. All right. Then,
I will say, I actually heard Deepa's point slightly differently. And I am kind of thinking about this project now. So we're going to clear this chunk of land. We're going to potentially put the daycare center on it. And then maybe not build the rest of it for a significant period of time.
That's the intent of the bond, is to keep the town in case they never build the rest of it. that
So
the
then we're
town
going to have
has-
empty land in case nothing gets built.
With a bond in place to remediate it if necessary.
And what's the remediation if, let's say, this project cannot get fully funded within a few years? Are we going to put a private project on this thing?
No, we would just reforest it, or we'd just stabilize the site so there's no runoff. They probably wouldn't be able to reforest it to the extent that it is currently forested with the bond that's proposed, but it would just be to maintain the site as it is naturally. The bond isn't to.
Naturally, that we've deforested.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not in love with this. I'm just going to throw it out there. That makes me extremely uncomfortable. Unless I have some sense that this project is actually going to happen, I, for one, feel like clearing a huge chunk of what's currently public land is a problem if we are literally just building a daycare,
It's
clearing it out, putting
Private land, if they own it.
private land. Okay.
They can clear it
They can
tomorrow
s-
if they.
and they can choose to sell it.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. So then, the only reason we're doing the surety is for what purpose then?
If
on
for some
private
reason the
land?
phasing doesn't happen and they never build the YMCA center, that they only build the early learning center, but the entire site was cleared, now we have a bond in place that we can at least stabilize the site and maybe enough to reduce some plantings, so that way the cleared site doesn't completely run off into other sites, and that we're left with an unmanageable site that's been cleared with no recourse if for some reason it doesn't. The intent of the
It's-
surety is to be released at the end of
Yeah,
the
it's
project. It's
standard.
just a safety.
it's standard practice. There's a risk in every single construction project, right, that things don't go forward. I think there's less risk in this one.
I mean, 9-49 Homer had a bond on it that was.
501,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sitting there empty right now.
Yeah, exactly, which is why you have the surety on it, so. All right. So in any case, we're not going to solve the questions tonight. I am going to make a motion that we continue the YMCA, whatever it's called, site plan review and special permit, to March 26th. Is there a second?
Second that.
And a roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Skip Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
All right, and Tricia Kendall, aye. Okay, 26. We are moving, we are shaking, we're going to get this thing done.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Night.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you Not the red line draft of the housing production plan or the clean?
Red one, yeah.
I never even looked at the title. I just saw the two attachments. That's why I kept saying it was
Yeah,
from a day ago. I didn't read
My
the
brain likes
name
to
of
look
it.
at the correct version, so when you kept saying there's another one 2 days ago, and the attorney's email indicates there's an edited version, and the only one I'm receiving is from February 24th, either the lawyer did not change the title, or I'm looking at the wrong document.
Yeah, they just didn't change the title. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at other now, but we have one of these, a significant planning board task list we're not going to do. Design review committee, is there any verbiage from Lisa yet?
I have something.
Whoa,
I have something very draft that it's literally just, essentially we've changed 2 lines in it to make it so that it would essentially be an ad hoc committee of.
really 2 lines?
No, we're just changing 2 lines in what's
Yeah.
existing. So essentially, instead of saying that you appoint 5 members on a 1, 2, or 3 year rotating term, we replaced it that you would have 3 members with up to 2 associate members that were appointed ad hoc by the planning board for the duration of 1 application and can be reappointed for following reviews by the planning board.
So can we look at that and get that in our rotation to talk about so that we can make the warrant? You already put in the placeholder for the warrant.
Lisa just hasn't confirmed it yet. That's what we had discussed
Okay.
last Wednesday, but she hasn't looked at it and said, yes, that works, or no, it hasn't. So that's why you don't have it yet. That's
Okay.
the only reason. Because she may come back and say, you can't do that, Goober, and you got to change it to this. And I'll go, oh, okay. So,
Okay.
But that's what we've got right now.
Okay, all right, great. I just wanted to make sure it's still, I'd really like to have that on this town meeting.
Oh, yes, it's on as we've got it as the notice of intent for a placeholder.
Okay.
So if we hold a public hearing for it anytime in April, that's more than sufficient time.
Okay, and we only need one.
You only
public
need 1 public hearing.
Okay, and it's just a small change, okay. All right, I'm just gonna I need to keep an eye on that. Housing, okay, so housing production plan, that's the thing we need to, go through.
I can share that.
And Paul, you were sitting at the airport. It was great that you were here for that public hearing, but if you need to, like, actually get home, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, no worries. I'm good for now. I'm good right now.
Okay, because you were there for the really important part that we needed you there for, so. Okay, so housing production plan, I'm gonna, don't mean to throw anyone under the bus, but I don't think anyone submitted any comments back to the housing production plan
Only got
except
comments from yourself.
for me. So as we go through these, and I think I've been kind of going through them and comparing it to the draft I sent. They really took care of picking up a lot of comments. I didn't go through all of them. But mostly I think we can just scroll through and I can explain a little bit about things I had found or noted, and they're not all my changes. I don't know why I think just the paging's changed there, so it's just
Yeah.
page numbers. Or, and maybe it's not even worth going through. I could go through, I could like say
I
some
feel
of
like your version is cleaner to look at.
Maybe
I
I
wonder
should
if
pull
we
up
can
the
put
one that you
yours on the
sent. Why
screen.
don't I do that? Why don't I pull up the version that you sent them? Is that
Okay,
better, do
but,
you think?
but.
I know, they
people
sent
should
one
know that-
back.
Yeah, but they can look at the red.
Yeah, I don't,
Well,
what's the best way, do you think?
well, we're supposed to, we either need to vote on this tonight, or we need to be on their meeting for April 1st.
Right.
No.
No, they're not meeting April 1st.
No, I guess
are
their
they?
next meeting.
Who's not meeting April 1st? Don't we have a joint meeting?
We have a joint meeting on April 1st about,
Comprehensive plan?
I'm sorry, I was thinking of the 4th of this month that they didn't meet. I'm sorry. No,
Okay.
there was another meeting they were supposed to have that they didn't have, but, so it would either be this or the 1st. I mean, you don't have to meet with the select board on it, so you could vote on this on the 26th when you're there. Because you're just voting to make your recommendations to J.M. Goldson, so you don't have to wait until the 1st.
okay.
I thought that's what GM told us the last time, that each board could do it individually.
Right,
We
exactly, so you
need a
don't have to
joint
do it,
meeting.
wait until the 1st to
Yeah,
do it with
it was just about wanting the timing. I guess let's go
Oh.
with that, because I don't think we're gonna have time to go through everything. Let's assume we can do that, and then we can always call up.
Do you have a lot of changes?
No, well, it's important to understand that I submitted my changes,
Yeah.
but other people did too. And
The
so
select board did as well.
So the red lines that you've gotten are some of
I mean,
my changes, and then some are other people's changes, but you could probably see where they make sense, I guess. You can see what they were questioning. So if we want to go through mine are almost.
yours are just yours.
Mine are just mine, and they're more related to planning board, right? And from planning board perspective.
Right.
Do you have a copy of mine? Is
I
that
do
what
have a
you're saying?
copy of yours. If you would like me to share that one
Okay.
instead, I can
Yeah, if
certainly
you
do
wanna-
that. Give me just a moment, sorry. I can.
And who were the other individuals who made changes?
I
I-
don't know. We sent it to the select board and they either
Yeah.
would have sent it directly to JM Goldson or through Susan, so I wouldn't have been privy to who. It was just you and the select board that were offered to make comments,
Okay.
so it would only be from you and the select board at this time.
So, yeah, so if we're doing that, I think we can go through very quickly, and then if people want to go through on their own, they'll be like, oh yeah, Tricia talked about that one, or,
And can I get an understanding, like lately, the materials I get for the meetings, like for example, for today, there was an attachment with documents, but that draft is not in there, the housing production plan. The decision that we had discussed a few minutes ago was not in here. So part of where I'm struggling is to get organized for these meetings. Like some stuff is in an email, some stuff is in this folder. I think we had some conversations about using the folders, not using the folders. What's our, like, what are we
The
doing?
housing production plan draft and this decision
Okay.
both came in after we sent out the
Okay.
meeting materials, so that's where they
Gotcha.
came in
Okay.
separately.
Now I
is it
understand.
possible just to keep dumping stuff into that folder then, though?
As long as you can access it,
No, I mean,
absolutely,
like
like,
you and Melissa, like. can-
oh, yes,
Because
absolutely.
I think that's part of the challenge I'm having, where I think originally we talked about the folder. I was like, let's not do it. Now we're doing it, but then we're still getting things over email.
Yeah, I
The
think
whole point of it was to avoid last minute things coming in, but we're getting
Right.
them.
It's never to avoid last minute things, because that's
Okay.
unavoidable, but I think having the folder, and then when we get something last minute,
Just reshare the folder, do you think?
yeah, you
I
could
think
either.
the folder just becomes updated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
could
I just
re-
let you know
reshare
this
the
has
fol-
been
yeah,
added.
Yeah.
We can certainly do that,
Yeah. Or it could be sending and putting it in the folder, whatever's
whichever is
easier.
easier.
As long as people are kind of notified right away and the folder is up to date, however that works best.
Right.
But- Yeah, but personally, I've really been liking the folder because I keep going back to it and everything's in one place, mostly.
That's the intent, right?
Okay,
Oh,
so
sorry,
you're
let me
gonna
just-
bring up mine?
Yes, just,
I could bring up myself, but I don't know how to. I'm not even on
And to be
mine.
clear, the one I'm looking at is the one with the February 20th date on the bottom left hand, like yours?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And
yes.
so when you say other people had made changes, those would also be in that version?
They would be in the version, yeah, that,
Okay.
because J.M. Goldson put everyone's comments and sent it out,
Okay.
and you can look at the messy
Oh,
you
here
know,
we go.
this is just, these are just mine, which the thing about mine is that mine are just comments, like theirs are taking my comments and giving the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it
some of
actually-
these weren't incorporated exactly, some of them weren't incorporated at all, right?
Well, mine are just, they're just questions, so it might actually be better, I hate to have you shift gears,
No, it's
but.
okay, now that I've got it, this is the red line here, so I can just
Oh,
jump
this is
back
the
and
red
forth.
line?
Yep, this one's the red line,
Yeah,
I
so
just had yours up,
let's
so.
let's keep the red line.
Okay, where do you want to start? Sorry.
I think page 5.
Okay,
I think page 5 so it's basically the question here was, and some of our residents who tapped, said this too, it says that there's sufficient water and sewer capacity. So, my question was, how do we know we're below capacity? Does this include all the approved projects? And so they re-looked at that statement and kind of made it more, got into some detail, made it more clear. Again, I think people should kind of go through this red line and see if those corrections still make sense. But it's kind of telling you what, that they did try to add that detail back in.
I think it's really confusing the way it reads.
Yeah.
I don't think that's well written. No offense to whoever wrote it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I assume,
I don't even know how to fix that.
well, I don't think we need to. I assume J.M. Goldson wrote it, but
I would say that's the most confusing. It meant to be in a document normal people can read, and I don't understand it, and I'm definitely not a normal person. So that was self-deprecating humor. No one laughed because it's a fact. Like, I'm telling you, that's really badly written. I don't even know what that means.
well, I would say,
How do I interpret that margin? Title 5 versus Mass DEP, totally different margins. Like, what do you do with that? What margin? Like, this should be a lot more clear. I mean, the last sentence is good, that you should be concerned, but where, how, at what point do we get concerned?
well, again, you have to remember that this isn't, I mean, I'm not saying it's not confusing,
Yeah.
but it's not a whole report. It's just
No,
a few
I get it.
sentences on that issue.
Yeah, I think the prior sentence with
You on the
the
26th?
gallons needs to be cleaned up.
Thanks, Peter.
Have a good one.
Jesse?
So, but the original concern, the original concern was that it was just stating that water and sewer are operating
Right.
below capacity. So, and
This
we're like,
actually defines it, yeah.
yeah, and
The
so it
defining
tries to,
capacity is great. I'm just saying that, like, to the public, that couple of sentences is gonna
Yeah,
create a
you're
sense of
swinging from
confusion.
80,000 gallons per day to 11,000 gallons per
so-
day. It's like a massive, like
Right,
one's
so-
8 times larger than the other. Like,
Yeah, so maybe it should say, there's multiple different standards. That can create some ambiguity. Here's potential standards for communities to evaluate. The town of Ashland should take into consideration these different standards and determine when capacity is a problem. Like, break this into normal English, right? Otherwise, it reads like a panic, like confused, confuzzled panic. Like, I don't know, sounds scary. I don't even know what it means.
yeah, just like the 11,000 gallons per day on the, the narrow margin, does that allow for another 1,000 households? Or does that allow for 20 households? I
And
don't,
I will say, I love this in the sense that, like, I have never seen anyone try to tell us when we should be concerned. So that, to
Yeah,
me,
so we're
this is
getting-
magic. Like, I really appreciate that the consultant is finally giving us language, and I'm not criticizing the consultant team because it sounds like this is really hard to explain.
Yeah.
And it's a technical term.
so note made that it needs to be more clear. Let's go
Yeah,
on to
I would
page
not take it
6.
out. I would just edit
No,
it.
it can't be
Yeah.
taken out, but,
Yeah.
and, we can't, we
Yeah.
can't really change this.
Correct.
In fact, I'm pretty sure they wanted us to vote on it, but we're gonna, because there is a timeline involved, as we talked about last time. So page 6, they were looking to explain, the first text just talked about compliance with state housing targets, and I was like, what targets? What do you mean, just like 40B? And so they changed that to state's 10% affordable, like they were just more specific about it. This whole next section, if you scroll forward, all that red line, you see how they're taking out those paragraphs and just putting the little first line? I think I'm going to take credit for that one because my comment was, it seems really competitive to have these goals, these paragraphs listed here. And then when you get to, this is page what, 6, 7? 6, 7. I know. My kids will love that. And then when you get to page 8, 9, see how they were just repeated in full. The whole paragraph was repeated in full. And I was like, why am I reading this twice? So, so they just labeled them and they described it later. There wasn't any problem with the text itself. It was just that it was doubled. My next thing, besides typos, 11 was kind of just a typo thing. It's a long document. It is, yeah. So page 16, this is just a little thing. They were talking about different sites. And I noted on when they were talking about MBTA communities, they talked about a one town-owned vacant parcel that was currently under the MBTA communities. I'm like, No, that can't be, because those weren't allowed in MBTA communities. So they changed that. I think it was just the road, basically, that they were counting. They talked about, they made a comment, this is on page 18. Couple things on page 18. First of all, they looked at a possible zone for redevelopment, was Ashland lumber. And I said, and I think someone from Select Board must have said the same thing, because there was language there that I didn't come up with, but it was a note that's saying, hey, this is an important local business. This is the only one we have in Ashland that's a lumber, it's a hardware store, it's a lumber yard. We don't have another one. And looking at that as a hey, this would be a great place for redevelopment is really taking something that we kind of use, right? So, what? Why is that funny?
It's funny.
Oh.
No,
So I just don't think they were familiar with it, like knowing
just
every
think it's
parcel in
funny.
town. So,
For a consultant to come in and be like,
well, I
lumber
think
yard.
it looks like a lot of open space, maybe, So anyway, I think that's probably coming out, because like I said, it's
I say
someone.
we have too many coffee shops. Let's take one of those down.
True. So someone, I think, on Select Board commented the same thing.
I'm with you. Anna. Don't take the coffee shops down.
No, I was saying if we're going to remove something that we have too much of, that's one thing.
Another-
I do have a question about the list of these possible sites. Has anybody reached out to these business owners to let them know they've been put on these lists?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's not really about that. It's like the MBTA zoning, like we didn't reach out to those properties and tell them that we were gonna put them on zoning. We just decided because it was the best for the town.
We think
I just wonder, like, Rick over at Ashland Lumber finds out his property's on this report and is not aware of it. He's gonna be quite aggravated
Yeah,
that
well,
nobody reached out to
It
him.
could, but it's not associated with any zoning. It's private property. It doesn't, he might be like, great, maybe I can sell for a lot, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he knows that already.
But, okay.
Hunch.
Another note I made was that within this report, they had talked about the photovoltaic installation overlay district. And it always said which prohibits residential uses. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So they took that out because it doesn't have anything to do with residential uses or non-residential uses. A lot of different properties. This thing they did not change yet. This is the green box or blue on page 22. It could be, they could be slightly off because remember they changed all those page numbers. I think you are further down, yeah. Right there. In the second line, at the end of the second line, they say associated with former school property. And I don't know what that's about.
So remember I asked that question,
Is it the
like,
Valentine's estate?
It just talks about feasibility studies.
well,
like
because I asked, like, where do you actually, like, is any of this even feasible? And they're like, well, a lot of towns do this, where they give up, like, old school buildings and they give it away for free so that the developer can come in. Because I was saying, how do you make it affordable, or how does the builder become, they're not going to build it if they lose money, right? So how do you make it so that they can still make money and trying to get them to affordable levels? And they said, well, sometimes towns can give the building or give the land, and then that makes it, obviously that lowers the price of the cost of it. But we don't actually have any buildings to give away, from my
to me, this
understanding.
seems like a comment left over from a different statement. Like, I don't think we have any school property that, like, what former school property?
Well, I think they just meant it as an example, not as Ashland has one that's just sitting there.
Right,
doing
but it
nothing.
doesn't
Typically
make sense in the sentence. Anyway, I'm gonna let them know. I think it's supposed to be taken out, but I don't, it's an example, but that's general conditions. And it doesn't make sense in the context, so.
You passed over the maps. Are they going to update those maps? They mentioned that updating them before. If you go up the next,
Updates were you looking for?
can you go up again? Sorry, one more. Yeah, so like those pink, yeah, the purple and blue, those are not actually available. Like
Yeah,
the
they had, no, I
Site
will
7
reach out
Pond
for.
Street, the Oregon Road ones, those
They-
are not actually available.
Yeah, I assume they were just focusing on the text instead of the graphics, because I noticed that in other graphics too, things
Yeah, I'll
weren't
ask
picked up.
them to update those,
Yeah.
because we also, they did confirm that they would take those off.
And then like, I know, like the one in the center of town, if you go down one more, you know, that big one in the center, yes, that's like the end piece is where they do the farmer's market, but the rest of that is the parking lot around the Needham Bank. So it's not like you can really throw up some affordable housing in the Needham Bank parking lot. Well, at least I don't think so, but I don't know.
Let's not give them any ideas.
Yeah.
Little tiny houses.
But that, I know that piece was purchased by the CPC, right? That was
Yeah.
for under affordable housing thing.
Yeah, so I mean, it is possible that housing would go there at some point.
On top of Needham Bank.
On top of what?
On top of the bank.
No, on the other end of it,
Well,
on top of
the
the
bank
farmer's
is
market.
zeroed out. You can still have the bank there. It's good. You can just go all the way around it though.
Around the bank.
Yeah, no more drive-through.
So what's page 27 for me, which is several pages after for you, because I'm not sure. So some of that read like, I don't know, I didn't do that, I don't know,
Okay.
someone, yeah, so that, but that paragraph is talking about like just different ways to support home ownership or, so it must have come from select board. But easy to read through for,
I mean, look, that changed where I said it's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking for number 12 on that chart. Yeah, so that was my, look at number 12, and originally it said responsible entity planning board, and I'm like, I don't think we do that, you know?
Oh, we don't do outreach? Yeah, probably not.
And then, especially this kind of
Yeah,
outreach.
yeah, that's what I mean for elder.
And now they've put planning board into a supporting entity, and I still don't think we do that. I don't think that is planning board. I don't think we talk about those things. Like, we do outreach, but not about those, not about seniors aging in the community. That's not what,
Yeah, that's
we
funky.
do,
That
right?
seems like an error maybe?
so I think, yes, I think planning board should come off of that entirely. It just doesn't fit what we do. Let's see.
While you're scrolling, I mean, technically, we could vote to approve this tonight with a couple of changes as our vote, right?
Yeah.
And that can then go to where? To the select board, right?
Yeah.
We actually sent it straight to Jen.
Yeah.
As your vote, and then the select board will vote on the 18th.
Yeah. I mean, so far,
Yeah.
clarifying without taking out the gallons, getting rid of that school word, and removing the planning board, these seem really straightforward.
I thought they were pretty, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one, okay, my next one is on page 39. It's, well, it's like, it's that one. All I said on that one is like, you don't have a key, which they didn't at the time. So they added a key. That was nice.
That is nice.
We know what we're actually measuring.
Let's see. So again, so on the bottom of these graphs, let's see which one. I'm on page 41, which means you must be, I'm on this graph. But my question again was, do any of these numbers, I think they talked about scenario 2, assuming approval for the 3 ongoing proposals, right? And they talk about different numbers of units, and I said, do any of these numbers take into account the planning board approved project for 120 units at 501 Pond Street, or the 29 units at 9 to 49 Homer? Like, they're only including, they always seem to be including 40Bs, but they're not including projects that we actually approved, one of which is in construction, and the other one is,
Getting funding. It's still moving forward. They just modified recently, so it's still moving.
yeah, so it's like they don't mention approved but not 40B projects. And are those on their radar as well? Not everything's the 40B. So that was my question there. I don't think that one really, that's one of the ones I don't think got answered to me.
Yeah, that's not
Is that the first scenario though?
Is that the first?
The one on the top.
Yeah, I don't, well, there was really slow. I mean, that's the whole thing. Yeah, that might be the majority of it, though. Because there's like, what, 600 units at Sears?
They do like a median of it, so they'll add them up for that 10-year period or 11-year time frame, and then they'll get you the median. So you might have had 1 year where you had 120 units come in, and the next year you had 7 units. So they just give you an average.
So my next thing was actually just the top of the next page. Can people, yeah. So, and I think, I like to take credit for this. I think they, because my comment was, I said, this is a strange way to describe this and to introduce this section. It sounds bad that Ashland is becoming, quote, less wealthy, but then encourages the development of low-cost housing, which would seem to make Ashland even less wealthy. Is that what you mean to say, right? Is that what you're trying to say? And I think the answer was no, that's not what we're trying to say. And so it seems like later on in the text, I was actually, I think, maybe on the next page, I was like, oh, here's what you were trying to say, which is something more like, would being less affluent mean not economic decline, but that Ashland would have a good balance of housing options, including for worker class and the elderly, that you need for a thriving community, right? It's like if you're too affluent, no one can afford to live here. The emergency workers and the teachers and the people we need here, restaurant workers, right? We need them here. And so the community is actually less vibrant, even though it's more wealthy, quote, in quotes, right? So I think that they, and I think they talked about that on the next page, but they needed it in the intro. Yeah, so where all that read is, that's where I was kind of like, oh, here's where you explained it. And so they moved it up. So.
Yeah, that's clear now. I do like the use of the language deep affordability. I think that's good
Yeah.
in this document.
This one they didn't correct on page, or change. It's this one, standard 40B. Yeah, so they talk about the AMI low limit, 80% for a one-person threshold is $92,650. This means that approximately 70% of householders age 65 and older living alone earn below 80% of the AMI. And my question was, I mean, and maybe I'm just way off base, but 7% didn't seem too bad to me. Did it? Like I would almost be like, they don't comment on here whether that's bad or good. I mean, obviously we want everyone to be above average, but it can't.
Sit with the rest of the state.
Well, like, yeah, above, yeah. So anyway, I didn't really get an answer.
Well, I think
on
the
that one,
bad part here, this is like a thing that doesn't give you the truth, which is a lot of those people have left, right? So these are the folks who might have community support that makes it viable for them to remain. So it seems like, oh, there's not that many people who are in this group, but this is the group that essentially is on their way out.
And that's why I'm wondering if maybe it needs an explanation, because I read 7%, I'm like,
No big
oh,
deal.
wow,
Yeah.
I thought it'd be like 50%
Yeah.
or something, not 7. That seems really good and fixable, or anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of this
crazy.
data can be confusing because what does it mean, right?
This is also based on an old consensus, isn't it?
Yeah. census data.
I mean,
Yeah, it
census.
could be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it 2023?
I mean, it's very, very clear from, if you look at the price point of average rents, that people in that category cannot be here. Literally, they can't
Right.
exist in Ashland. So, but you have to almost like use your, by the time you get to that paragraph, you have to like remember, what does this actually mean? This means that there's no people here anymore in that category. That's what it actually means. It's not a data point of like, great, only so few people are in this category. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah, I think just a few sentences in here, it just was unclear the way it was originally written, so I just asked if they could restate it. So I wasn't really getting the meaning, or it took me a while to figure it out. Okay, I'm at page 49, it looks like this. Oh, they're really good. They really looked at this stuff thoroughly, because now maybe you guys know, but I had to Google wholesale trade, like a sector, wholesale trade. I'm like, what's wholesale trade? Right, so I had to Google what it was. And so I asked for a definition, and they put in definition, so very responsive. I'm impressed.
Are these their best comparisons? Because
what do you mean, Paul?
they're picking six figures out, like a wholesale trade. You're right. Where do we have wholesale trade in Ashland? Construction, I can see that. Professional, scientific, technical services. I don't see anything about fire, police, school teachers, DPW, those
But
types
these are
of
the top
industries.
3 sectors by salary.
So everything below that, they absolutely cannot live in Ashland based on salaries.
Yeah, that might be kind of what they're, yeah, I mean, it goes on to explain things on other pages, but I think, yeah, that's what they were kind of pulling out, is like, what pays the most for people who live in Ashland?
But it doesn't mean that these people are here.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't mean that these are the dominant industries. It just means that if you want to make good money in Ashland, you better be doing one of these 3 things.
Yeah, so if you go into
It
the,
says it's based on the 2024 Mass DOE report, that these are the top 3.
But sectors by salary. So these are the sectors by highest salary in Ashland. But it doesn't mean that this is the dominant three by number of people.
yeah, scroll up to the next chart.
Right?
Scroll up to the next chart, right there, see that now they're looking at salary by sector in Ashland, and now it really shows that variety that Paul was, talking about, like what people get paid in Ashland for various sectors. It's not saying quantity of people, it's just saying,
Right.
what, if you're in this
You
sector.
happen to be in this sector.
Right.
So if you happen to be in those 3 sectors, you're going to make the most money, but it doesn't mean that most people are in there. We don't know how this breaks down. I didn't even know we have wholesale stuff in Ashland.
I didn't even
Well,
know
it's
what
just
wholesale was.
I'm guessing it's like
Yeah.
one person.
It's just the person who answered the survey. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if 12 people answered the survey, then that's what the information is.
And you're assuming this data is accurate because a lot of people in surveys embellish the
Somebody
numbers.
does
I mean,
Amazon or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there was one that had like warehouse work in there, and it looked about the right number.
Yeah, I think my only comment in here, I did have a comment in here, but it was about
TikTok.
in their language through the document, sometimes they talk about the 40Bs as present, and sometimes it's future. And I know we're kind of right on that cusp, but I asked them to be kind of consistent in how they talk about it, like in their language, because it got a little confusing. More questions about the tense of things.
Did I see correctly? 7,400, almost 7,500 households.
That sounds about right.
So the 7% would be roughly, let's say 500 houses, 7%.
7% of what?
Well, what Tricia was talking about, a 7% factor on one of those pages.
Oh, yeah, talk about,
65.
yeah, about people over 65.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not, no, it was saying of the people that are over 65, that 7% of them were below the 80%. So it had
They
nothing to do with the
exactly
total
changed
number
it
of
to what I
houses.
said. I'm really impressed. They really looked at comments carefully. Let's see. Let's see what this is. Okay, so under findings under number 2, what internal regulatory factors impact development potential? It's number 2, this. What internal regulatory factors? I don't know if it's above or below. Okay. Yes, so. Yeah, I think it was right. Yeah, I don't either. Can you go back up and let me see if. Yeah, some. It wasn't necessarily a change. I had a comment here regarding that first paragraph under findings. Talking about nearly half of the community's land zoned exclusively for residential, 32 for multifamily, 16% that permits them as of right. So my comment was, this may be part of the reason for Ashland's, quote, small town feel that residents like and likely makes Ashland in high demand. What % of zoning for single family is typical in other communities? How does maintaining the small town feel balance with changing the zoning? So again, those were just questions. It wasn't necessarily this is wrong. And I don't know if that question was addressed elsewhere.
I mean, the good news is that question was definitely addressed at the comprehensive plan drafting, and this is the same team that drafted this document. I mean, I kind of look at this document with it's a formality really for the state, not that it's not a great serious document, but there's a lot of sort of stuff in here that's already in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Which is like, yes, we need more housing, duh, this is why we have this plan. But the plan itself, which is sort of consider rezoning, consider streamlining permitting, consider different areas where there's like none of this is rocket science to me. I think it's pretty standard stuff.
Did you find this one? I think this is just a.
So I wouldn't
an
overthink
incomplete
it. I feel like
sentence.
we need to vote it, approve it, and move on.
Oh, they took out that whole thing. Okay. Okay. I had a comment in there, but they took it out, so maybe I put it somewhere else. I don't know. Let's see. 60. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so my question here, because they were talking about the highest and best use of land. And my question was, who's saying it's the highest and best use of land? Or, maybe if someone thinks their garden is the best use of land, then it is for them, right? So they put in that the consultant team has determined, like what things are, in their experience, I guess, which things are underutilized and which aren't. So, fair enough, right? Let's see, 62. Yeah, they keep taking out that one, the statements about the photovoltaic. Yeah, it must have been, it just, they didn't just have that understanding correct, so they keep taking it out, which is great, because I keep calling it. Let's see. Lots of maps. What's this? Okay. Let's see if they changed anything on this. or they're talking about parking. Wow. Well, that, looks like other people had comments on parking too. I'm at the end of the thing where it says. Actually, the next, yeah, where it says, for example. I'd have to read, I haven't read through the corrections yet. My point was that, I think people want the parking requirement high to reduce on-street parking and control the size of proposed housing developments. Can you better frame the argument for less parking? How does allowed density relate to open space in dense areas? How do you maintain the small town feel? How do you pair development with open space? So I haven't read through that, and I don't know if other people commented about parking.
So, I mean, this raises some interesting questions that are not addressed, which is like, okay, now we're an MBTA community. The whole concept is you're supposed to benefit from that. In theory, maybe we don't need so much parking required in that radius of the train stations. Maybe that allows for more density with open space in partnership. Because in theory, you don't need to you don't need to put down that much parking. You can have more, if you build taller, denser, but leave the open space, and you don't need as much parking, maybe there's a balance there, right, in theory. I think that's what the state has in mind. The state is imagining that right next to every MBTA, there's gonna be a bunch of tall buildings, people just kind of live and walk. It creates economic growth and affordable housing. And in theory, you don't really need to park anymore because you're right there next to the train.
Yeah, I think
So,
I think they're putting more, it looks like they're putting more explanation into
Right.
it, about, so that people can understand the give and take
Right.
between parking.
parking versus housing, yeah.
Yeah, and parking versus open space, and density versus open space,
Yep.
type of things, those kind of, pluses and minuses. If you scroll down a little bit on historic,
Did they just recommend we redevelop the town hall there? Opportunity for growth.
I was looking for where if they,
Lumber house and town hall.
yeah, so here, they talk with communities to demonstrate an interest in preserving historic resources, so. Yeah, that was kind of my comment there, because they didn't seem to mention anything about the historic district that at least had a proposal in front of, that there is an interest there. Let's see, what page am I on now? 74. Oh, that's nothing. Oh, yeah, so let's see if they took out this thing. Let's see where it said to address this issue. Oh, yeah, go down a little bit. Stop right there. To address this issue in 2025, the town approved, okay, that's the, I'm like, what? Because it said the town is debating a zoning amendment. I'm like, I don't think we are, actually. Because that should be in front of planning board.
I have to say, I did not fully grasp that a quarter of our town is flooding hazard. It's so much. That's a lot. We should keep building parking lots and see how that goes.
Okay, and then the next thing is right after the picture of the Mendez School. Is that, yeah. Yeah, so this is where I was asking, because they said, again, Ashland's water and sewer systems has sufficient capacity, and, my thing was like, we're under water use restrictions every summer, and people are commenting on this, so explain this to me. Explain this to everyone reading this, how those two things can go together, right? But it might be the same I think they're using the same data that they did before on some of
Okay,
it.
but this now reads a lot clearer.
This is better?
I think this is better because it gives you context, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, this at least gives some context of what's coming, right? Because we had no idea before
Well, this
when
is
it just
after
said,
these projects.
right, but it said only the 80,000 or the 10,000 gallons per day, but we had no idea like what, was that
What the
good or is that
context,
bad?
yeah.
Like how many could that handle? So
With
now
this-
it's giving the other ones.
Well, the way I take this is if you, the developments we have out there right now, the major projects that add 1,300 bedrooms, once those are done, our capacity is going to be down.
Oh, so after those
To
projects,
just-
we're still going
yes.
to have 80,000 gallons.
We're going to have 80,000 gallons per day or 10,000 per mass assumptions. This is the part I don't understand, like, I don't fully grasp what that means. Like, what does it mean that you're going to have 80,000 under this guidance or 10, like, isn't the water there? It's either there or not. Why does the standard change?
Madam Chair, I don't know if you're
Chair,
taking
can I-
Yeah,
comments,
Oh,
but
sorry, I
Joan
didn't-
Frady would like to speak.
Okay, great.
Sure, you can jump in with a comment.
I apologize for jumping in, but since this was the one that I had asked you to change, I think just to put in some context,
Yes.
the gallons per day left, you have to divide that by 19,000 people. So you have got literally, well, do the math, It's like one to 4 gallons. The estimate that I did using exact numbers in the DEP numbers and the other, these two calculations, I don't have them in front of me right now. But we have 1 to 4 gallons per day left per person after all these projects are built.
Joan, I'm so sorry. Can you please identify yourself and address for the record?
I apologize. Yes, Joan Gonfrati, One Shore Road, and I'm on the Historical Commission speaking as an individual resident.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, it's just hard to, even though, to run those, to say that, it doesn't, it's hard to still say that, oh, that's a lot, or that's a little,
It's very little.
I finally understood what the sentence actually means.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
it'd still be good to have more explanation about it, about that, it's getting there, it's getting better, but it's not complete. And I still would like to say something about the water, the water bans. Like, how does that relate? Because that's what people, like, well, we're under this water bans every summer. Like, how can we have capacity? Like, explain the two things so that it makes sense to people reading this,
Well, yeah, because we can guess. So now I comprehend it better. If we applied the Mass DEP assumptions, we're only going to have 10,000 gallons left per day. Their assumptions could be off, or how they determine that availability is very different clearly from Title V. But we can also plug ourselves into this other system and get extra water and just pay for it and assume we don't ever have a problem, right? So I'm assuming this is based on our own water or our own resources?
That's where it gets confusing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, this is based on current contracts.
Yeah, currently we can only use MWRA if we go below a certain level. And that means we don't even have the 110 to 179,000 gallons per day. We're well below that before we can kick in MWRA to get back up to that. We would have to do a contract with MWRA and purchase a lot of money for a lot of water for a lot of money.
Yeah, so let's go on to page 80, which it says something about that as well. No, yeah, I know. I keep forgetting we're not on the same page. Yeah, so I think it's right there that we just Ashland's wastewater collection, system. So that middle paragraph, it's just this section again where my comment to them was that there may be capacity, but are there greater costs to residents for using more water and sewage through these systems? I said, best not to treat these explanations casually, as they are of great importance to Ashland residents who watch their fees closely. So,
Exactly. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
you're welcome. So, wherever this little chart is, yeah, so they caught they kept referring to Mendez as a renovation, and we're like, it's a little bit more than a reservation. It was a very expensive reservation. I think we're getting to the end of it. Oh, yeah, 84. Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, they just had it strained, they had it, the way they phrased it was very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I report to myself with you guys.
yeah, the planning department in a report, yeah, it was very strange. It didn't do anyone any good, that explanation.
We
so,
are bosses to ourselves.
Yeah.
It is really efficient, I will say.
The what? No, that was not me. I did not do that one. Something on 86. Oh, yeah, yeah, so they had something about things coming before the planning board, and we're like, we don't do that, so. Oh, yeah, that doesn't, under the joint remit of the planning, of the ZBA, yeah. So it's still, thank you for, I didn't even see that. And that, I'm trying to see if I don't know if I have anything in the appendix, let me. Nope, that was my last one. Phew.
Thank you, Tricia, for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a long read.
I mean,
You
I'm,
got kind of into it once you got going,
yeah,
like a novel.
I'm okay
I don't
with-
believe you.
I mean, I take back my comment about the original confusion thing with the gallons, because I think the later one is better and it's fine. With the changes that you proposed, I'm fine voting for it with Trish's changes.
I think the big things I think that corrected in there, which I think they caught all of them, was the planning board doesn't do this. We aren't doing this. This isn't our responsibility, which I think was really important to have clear in there. Other things are, hey, this is how I feel about something, but it's just me. I'm just making the comment, right? So it's not like all those have to be in there. But I think I was really impressed. They did a really good job picking up my comments, like that they really paid attention, like they really did. So I think that's great. I think that shows something about the quality of the firm.
They're
and,
great.
To work with, so. Anyway.
I can make a motion to approve the draft of the housing production plan with Trish's edits.
Second that.
All right, cool. Roll call vote?
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye. Awesome, okay. Whew.
Monday, if that's okay. The edits by the end of the day, Monday, for you to look at, for us to submit to Jen.
Yeah, I didn't know how they wanted to proceed with that, but yeah, we can,
That works.
look at them.
Just to make sure I captured everything, if that's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, anything on the implementation committee? That's April 1st.
What I
right?
remember, and we were all there, so somebody refresh my memory, because I was virtual. What I remember is the next step is Yolanda and me, I think, are supposed to draft something to the comprehensive plan committee to get them to express interest and get some names for our next joint meeting. And I thought we were also going to try to post online for the general public by the next meeting. Did I make that second part up?
No, I think we did
That sounds
Okay.
kind of right.
So then I did email Yolanda today, because I don't know if she's drafting it or I'm drafting it, who's drafting it. So I sent her like a blurb that she could send to the comprehensive plan committee, and then I like created an ad that the town could post, and I CC'd Michael. So I'm assuming if we want to get this done by April 1st, it should be edited, approved, and done. So I don't know if Yolanda needs to look at it, but I remember she was traveling. Like, I don't know if I'm making that up, too.
She was traveling, but I don't remember when.
In April, but it was after April 1st, because we talked
Okay.
about joint meeting on April
Okay.
1st before
Okay.
she left to resolve it, so then she could,
Okay,
Go
so
in.
maybe she'll get what I just sent her, and we can get that done. And hopefully it's not too late, since it's March 12th. I'm sure she can edit it and get it over to Michael, and it can be over with. That's the update.
all right. So, okay. Anything on the reports, a CPC, Metro West, comprehensive plan?
We didn't have a meeting since the last time we talked.
Okay. No further updates. And then all we have is the meeting minutes. I really haven't had a chance. It's the one thing I did not read, is the meeting minutes.
Can we put the February 26th up? Or do we have them here somewhere?
They are in there,
Perfect.
yeah. So if we want to
You can put them up. Can you
skim them a little bit. So this is when we were talking, Goldson was talking about the housing production plans, which is what we were discussing. Oh, maybe it's in the meeting minutes. Oh, here. Board members agreed that the planning board will attend the select board's meeting on
Oh, thank
April
you.
1st. Ms. Tesmaniski suggested that she and Ms. Greaves work on drafting communications to comprehensive plan committee members, members of the public, to find who's interested. There you
Great.
go.
Okay,
It's in print.
so she has my draft.
Name correct?
60, Deepa?
Yeah, next steps in board sending comments to Mr. Vera by March 2nd.
Yes, that's
And,
his. Flavio Vila, yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember his last name, only Flavia.
But thank you for checking.
These are very detailed minutes,
Very.
Laura does an amazing job.
but I'm happy with them.
Yeah, I just skimming, but I don't see anything amiss.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the February 26th, 2026 minutes.
Second that,
A roll call vote?
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Skip Altieri.
Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, aye.
The March 26th, I don't see them in the packet, but I remember seeing them in email version. That was like when we met with the select board, right? The March 26th. Oh, no, that's a meeting, sorry.
Yeah, this is,
That is a future, but I think
Yeah.
I saw another set of minutes that had to do with the joint meeting with the select board. Did I make that up?
I think this was our,
This was a joint, this is a joint meeting.
yeah,
Not today's meeting.
No,
No.
the last meeting.
that's our last meeting. We're very up to date with the meeting minutes.
Oh,
She goes really fast.
no, what I'm saying is I think,
You can-
hold on, this is it, okay. All right, so it's the same version. Got it, I'm good. Perfect.
Yeah, so one thing in our schedule, we don't have to determine this today. Our schedule in April, the second meeting falls in school vacation week. I will definitely not be here. And we do have a 3-week span in between, so we might want to just shift it down 1 week.
So that's April 23rd.
Yeah, so instead of April 23rd, doing April 30th, and then our next meeting still isn't until, I think, May 14th.
So-
because we have that extra week in there.
Okay. So right now, we have the joint meeting on the 1st,
Mm-hmm.
and you're saying the next one is the
Well,
week-
that's their meeting, I
That's their
think,
meeting.
right?
So when is our regular meetings?
So we would be meeting,
March
9th?
26th and then April 9th and April 23rd would be,
Got it, okay.
right, and so the April 23rd is school break week, and I know I will
Got
not be
it.
here. But I believe we have 3 weeks, it's one of those 3-week gaps.
Yeah.
And so if we move it to April 30th, then I'm here if we need special
Seems
permits
like
or,
that's a
you know,
good
whatever.
idea.
Is everybody okay with that? Any plans?
That's a lot of, yeah, I think that's okay.
And then we go into May.
So the planning board meeting would be the 9th and the 30th,
Yeah, okay, great,
with the joint meeting on the 1st.
right. Awesome. All right, and then the last, well, does anyone else have any announcements? Okay, so then my last kind of announcement is that after the elections, Deepa has pulled paper for her seat, Paul has pulled papers for his seat. But after the elections, when we reorganize the board, I'm just letting you know that I will not be accepting a nomination for chair. I will not be accepting a nomination for chair. I threw it out there before, but I'm rescinding that offer. I will be very in support of helping anyone. When I came on to be chair, there were no chairs left on the board, and so it was just no chairs left on the board, right? Yeah. So it was all just kind of learning. But whoever steps in, I'm happy to help in whatever way. I figure everybody here has leadership experience. Everybody here has run a committee, you know, at some point. So it doesn't matter if you're your first year or your however manyth year for you guys. If anyone has questions, just let me know, and we'll look at making a transition. So I promise I won't be really mean sitting in one of the other seats. I'll be very nice and polite and understanding.
What's the fun in that?
So
And she'll still be editing all the decisions, probably.
maybe.
Probably.
I can't help it. Like, I can't help it. Like,
I don't think you can.
Not gonna lie, if you keep that part of the thing, I think more people would be open to it.
Yeah, I would too. I am too. I
You're
am
like, do we
too.
have to do that part?
Like, if you make me edit
I
any
mean,
decisions,
technically,
I'm not.
if Tricia stops editing the decisions, you know, we're gonna have to read them. Saying. You're enabling us.
I can't, yeah, maybe.
Just saying.
Maybe. I just can't, I can't stand something with
I mean,
a
there are
bad
lots
edit. I
of, there
can't
are,
stand.
I will say, there's a lot of different ways to run boards. The overwhelming way that Tricia has been doing it is a burnout way. And do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
shocked that you've done it for as long as you have, because you tend to do everything. And so, you know, if we're gonna kind of reorganize, there's many ways to do it. And we could take turns editing decisions. We can technically have chair and co-chair kind of alternate running meetings so that the chair is not always running the meetings. The preparation that's pretty severe and extensive that Tricia does, the chair cannot escape. You're gonna have to work closely with Jasmine regardless. So I don't think that can be shared by people. But like the other things that Tricia does, like editing decisions, running these meetings, I don't see why that can't be done by multiple people.
I think it's just something
In
to,
like a triage of, you know, organized fashion. There's enough of us here that we could probably organize and run this board without putting it all in one person.
yeah, I think it's just something for everyone to consider. And like I said, I don't, just opening it up to everybody. If you have any questions about it, let me know. I do think there's definitely other ways that we can do things. But I'm just I'm putting that out there. 5 years is good. That's a good solid number. I'm ready to join the peanut gallery.
You're not gonna sit
5
back
years
there,
is a
are you?
long time, Tricia. That's for sure.
What's that?
5 years is a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So I know other people have done it longer. I think Preston did it longer. I think there's been other people that have done it longer, but 5 years is good for me. So, But anyway, so that's all I have. If no one has anything else, we will.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 10:33.
Second that.
And a roll call vote.
Deepa Venkata.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Scott Pelletier, aye.
And Mr. Paul Montesino, aye.
And Tricia Kendall, I thank you, Paul, for sticking with us all this time. Drive safely home.
Yeah, Paul, thank you. That's the type of leadership that goes towards being a
A chair.
chair. Yeah. Oh, did he sign off? Oh.
I did it. Sorry, I was quick on the trigger.
I like that, though.